What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 1 at Chapter 1 Elite Camp. Next chapter advertisement. Chapter 1 Elite Camp Naval Headquarters. A well-organized young man in a white robe, with a pair of square-frame glasses hanging from the bridge of his nose, and with his short white hair in order, was walking steadily towards the Marine base. Naval Headquarters, it's really extraordinary. Murphy looked at the people walking here and there, feeling a little emotional in his heart. That's right, Murphy is a time traveler and has a system. His system is very simple, which is to let him inherit the power of the strong in each world. And the first template he inherited was the supervillain boss in the Shinigami world, Aizen Sosuke. After comprehensive consideration, Murphy finally chose here as his first destination and became the first student of the elite camp set up by Marine. That's right, this is not the time when Luffy went to sea in the original book, but the time period as early as 32 years ago. In the same class as Murphy, there are two future Marine Admirals Sakazuki and Pelusalino joining the Marine elite camp. Looking at the 1% words on his Aizen Sosuke unlocking template, Murphy is also a little uncertain about who is stronger and who is weaker between the current self and the two monsters in the original book, Admiral. Advertisement. However, judging from the ease of passing the elite camp before, even if it is only 1% of Aizen's strength, passing these so-called assessments is a breeze. Gather. Suddenly, there was a loud roar. However, this scary-sounding roar didn't seem to be able to frighten everyone. Especially for these students in the elite camp, more than 50% of them just put on a wait-and-see attitude. Sure enough, monsters are not always easy to tame. He casually glanced at the students who hurriedly ran towards that side and the remaining half of the students who didn't respond at all. Even if it is an elite camp, there will be some guys who are just pretending to be there before they have passed the real assessment. Of course, although Murphy has almost reached a conclusion in his heart, Marine will not simply dismiss this group of people without reason, but the gap has been widened from the very beginning. As Murphy expected, the officer in charge of the roll call just narrowed his eyes slightly and didn't say anything. Then the roll call began. The roll call process was relatively short, and in just a few minutes, the officer had already confirmed most of the names on the list. Sakazuki. Arrive. Pelusalino. Arrive. Advertisement. Murphy. Arrive. Murphy's expression didn't change the slightest when he heard his name being pronounced at the last, and he still replied in that gentle and calm voice. It formed a clear contrast with the resolute and sonorous voice of others. Hearing this voice, the officer raised his eyes with some doubts, and saw Murphy, who was walking slowly and calmly not far away. He seems to be a very gentle person, easy to like. But Zephyr Admiral's requirements are quite strict. Let's go to the training camp. As if thinking about it, the Marine officer reminded Murphy one sentence, and then waved his hand, motioning for everyone to follow along. Following the Marine officer around several Marine fortresses, after about an hour, the group of them came to a huge iron gate, the Marine training camp. Simple 5 words, but it feels quite solemn. I have to say that the atmosphere of Naval Headquarters is worthy, especially that this elite camp is the place where Marine senior generals and backbones will be trained in the future. Marine's training camp reveals a very extraordinary atmosphere everywhere. Suddenly, Murphy's probing nerves suddenly felt a phantom passing by. Even with his current strength, he only captured an afterimage. Boom! In the next second, a student was blown away by a punch. It seems that the trial for freshmen has come. Are we going to select some people to leave the elite camp? Seeing this situation, Murphy immediately understood what was going on. Sure enough, it is impossible to enter the elite battalion by relying on a few simple tests. The most intuitive way is to directly conduct actual combat assessments. Advertisement. But, in other words, as long as you show enough potential here, you can get better Marine resources. Thinking of this, Murphy put a smile on his sunny and gentle face. You must know that Murphy not only inherited Aizen's strength, but also experienced Aizen's experience together. For Murphy, Aizen's experience is like empathy, which made his mentality change a lot. The change. The law of the jungle, no matter where you put it, it will never change. What's the matter? If it's just this level, then I can announce that all of you can be eliminated from the elite camp. Suddenly, the huge figure spoke out. The extremely strong oppressive force made many people's faces change drastically, and some weak guys even started to tremble in their legs. Four times a day. 2,000 flowers plus 1 change. 1,000 reviews plus 1 update. Any 5 people tipping, regardless of size, plus 1 update. Now it seems that the chapters with a relatively small number of words cannot be published separately, so I will not issue a leaflet to explain the update situation. Let's talk about it directly in the first chapter. Check the situation at 10 o'clock today. Chapter 2 Sakazuki and Pelusalino. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Chapter 2 Sakazuki and Pelusalino. As expected of Zephyr Admiral, he can even achieve this level of aura. Looking at those guys with weak legs, Murphy said lightly, but at the same time he tightened the Zanpakuto in his hand. Zephyr Admiral. Do you know that uncle? Next to Murphy, a rather wretched-looking guy asked with interest. Judging by his relaxed appearance, I'm afraid Zephyr's oppressive force didn't have any substantial impact on him at all. Of course, not only Pelusalino, but Sakazuki next to Pelusalino was also unaffected. I have to say that they are indeed the two admirals in the future. Even if they are so young, they will not be afraid of Zephyr's momentum. Of course, there must be some water in it. After all, it is impossible for Zephyr to show the real combat power of Marine Admiral to fight against these students. It's not acquaintance, it's just that I know the name. Murphy shook his head, gently pushed the square glasses frame on the bridge of his nose with his fingers, and slightly raised the corners of his mouth to reveal a gentle smile. He really looks like a nice guy. Seeing Murphy's appearance, even Pelusalino and Sakazuki couldn't help but feel good about Murphy. With such a gentle personality, unless the two sides are enemies from the beginning, it is difficult for anyone to have ill will towards Murphy. It is indeed a guy who makes people's eyes shine. Sakazuki on the side also nodded and said, I have to say that people like Murphy are too dazzling. Anyone standing next to him seems to be a green leaf as a foil. Advertisement. While the few of them were chatting, the battle on Zephyr's side was coming to an end. Although there are a few guys who can pass a few tricks in the hands of Zephyr, the gap is still quite obvious. After finishing off the others, Zephyr turned his attention to the 3 people with plain faces beside the road. I didn't expect that there are guys who can bear my aura. It seems that not all the guys in the elite camp are just pretending to be like other guys. Zephyr admired secretly in his heart. It was naturally impossible for him to say this directly. Looks like it's time for the 3 of us. Sakazuki glanced at the 2 people next to him. Although he said he didn't know each other before, geniuses can always understand each other. Obviously, even if it was just meeting for the first time, even without too much communication, the 3 of them had already formed a small circle that was different from others. Zzz. Immediately afterwards, drops of lava dripped from Sakazuki's body. Logia. I didn't expect such a little guy to exist. Seeing Sakazuki's ability, Zephyr's eyes also brightened. Although the ability of Devil Fruit does not fully represent the combat effectiveness, the powerful Haki is the right path to the top powerhouse. But it is undeniable that the destructive power brought by the powerful Devil Fruit ability is beyond the reach of 99% of people. Advertisement, especially those with Logia abilities, are naturally immune to physical attacks. If observation Haki is strong enough, it can be said to be almost invincible. And now Sakazuki's ability obviously has a unique advantage in destructive power. Hold your breath. Concentrate. This time, the aura exuding from Zephyr's body was completely different from that just now. Drink. With a loud shout, Zephyr's figure was as fast as lightning, and under the astonished eyes of several people, his black fist slammed straight at Sakazuki like black lightning. Click. With a crisp sound, Zephyr directly punched Sakazuki's abdomen with his fist. Boom. Sakazuki was blown out with a punch and smashed into a wall, making a loud explosion. This is really merciless. Seeing Sakazuki's miserable state, Pelusalino's calm expression on the side also completely withdrew. Even though he was a sparkling fruit user, he couldn't see the movement trajectory of Zephyr just now. Obviously he only relied on physical skills, but his speed was already higher than him. It's a matter of course, after all, it's Marine Admiral. It would be really funny if we had a back and forth with fresh students like us. Murphy looked at Zephyr quietly, with a gentle and calm tone. Speaking of. Are you going to do it too? Seeing Murphy's appearance, Pelusalino asked a little strangely. Advertisement, of course. There are not many opportunities to fight against Admiral. This is also the fastest way for us to understand the strongest combat power in the world. Only when we understand, will we catch up faster. Murphy walked forward lightly, with a good feeling Ryatsu suddenly emanated from his body. The white robe all over her body fluctuated with Ryatsu's fluctuations, and coupled with that gentle side face, it might be enough to make any girl's eyes full of peach blossoms. But it's a pity that there seems to be only one girl in this year's elite camp, and she has already passed out. Teacher Zephyr, please teach me more. Looking at Zephyr at a distance of less than 20 meters, Murphy smiled lightly and raised a hand. This time, it wasn't Ryatsu who leaked it unconsciously, but was released voluntarily. The blue and extremely thick Ryatsu pressed towards Zephyr's body as if it could intimidate the soul. Ryatsu, Aizen's Ryatsu is unbelievably scary even if it's only 1% of the way. A powerful Ryatsu that can make Espada kneel down directly with Ryatsu alone, even if his body is restrained, He can easily shoot down the Lingwang Palace as long as he wants, even if it is only 1%, this power is still quite terrifying human. What a terrifying deterrent, Conquerors. No, it's completely different from Conqueror's Haki. This kid is much more terrifying than the other two. Feeling the strong Ryotsu emanating from Murphy's body, Zephyr felt for Murphy in his heart. The evaluation suddenly rose several grades. Chapter 3 Excited Zephyr. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. But Murphy didn't have time to pay attention to Zephyr's expression at this time. Hado number 4 White Thunder. Dazzling thunder shot out from Murphy's hand, dazzling like a shooting star. In an instant, the whole field was covered by thunder, and it blasted directly at Zephyr with its berserk power. Boom! A terrifying howl came out, and Paluzolino on the side only felt a tingling pain in his ears. Is this guy really younger than me? This kind of power? For a moment, looking at Murphy's appearance, Paluzolino couldn't believe this fact. Just now, the power and speed of this hand have far surpassed him. Immediately afterwards, Paluzolino set his sights on the dense fog, wanting to know the final result immediately. As the smoke dispersed, a man's figure was slowly and faintly visible. Paluzolino held his breath, because he knew that the scene he saw next would probably make him dumbfounded. When the thick fog cleared, Zephyr's figure was completely exposed, with his hands combined to cover his chest, but there seemed to be no scars on Zephyr's hand except for a small hole. Advertisement. But Paluzolino noticed Zephyr's feet very keenly, and there was a 4 to 5 meter long push mark under Zephyr's feet. Gulu. A heavy swallowing sound broke the tranquility of the scene, and Zephyr looked at me, Murphy, who was not far away, with mixed emotions in his heart. Although he did not go all out to fight, it is definitely not anyone who can easily repel him of. It's not that Zephyr has never seen a genius. He who can become Marine Admiral is a rare genius, and those big pirates who fought with him on the sea are not geniuses. However, compared to the young man in front of him, who was only less than 20 years old, it seemed that their talents seemed to be a bit eclipsed. Zephyr even seems to be able to see a rising star of Marine as slowly rising. Even if his family members were killed and he wanted to quit, Zephyr still cared about the situation of the sea and the plight of Marine. At this time, Marine only has one Marine Admiral on the bright side. Although he and Garp also have the strength of Admiral, one retreats to the second line to cultivate talents, and the other refuses to be promoted to Admiral. Although it has the strength to suppress this sea, it seems a bit reluctant. As for Murphy, if trained properly, it may take less than 10 years to take over the position of the next Marine Admiral. Genius. A true genius. Zephyr clenched his fists, his eyes sparkling. However, Zephyr didn't show it immediately, but kept the excitement in his heart. He couldn't affect his future teaching because of his attitude. Advertisement. Nice. Murphy, right. What are you going to do in the future? Me? In the future? Hearing Zephyr's question, Murphy was stunned for a second, but immediately came back to his senses. Those gentle eyes looked at Zephyr with a slight smile through the plain square frame glasses, and replied in a gentle yet firm voice full of yearning. I want to be a hero in the future. To protect justice, heroes who protect the people. The breeze blows the white-haired boy, and the gently raised short hair reveals a handsome, gentle and resolute face. The magnetic voice is full of ideals, and the sound is convincing. It seems that it contains not only a sentence, but also a young man's yearning for the future. Zephyr stared blankly at the gentle but resolute young man in front of him. Be a hero. How similar this dream is to my own back then. He was also at the same age back then, and he joined Marine with such a pure idea, in order to become a hero who defends justice. After being stunned for a while, Zephyr let out a long sigh of relief, then looked at the two remaining people who were not unconscious and said, That's all for today. Tomorrow I will announce the list of the elite battalion. After speaking, Zephyr left directly, before even testing Paluzolino's strength in time. After Zephyr left, he hurried towards Marine Admiral's office. Advertisement. After seeing Zephyr walk in, Sengoku asked a little strangely, What's the matter? Didn't you say to test the newcomers? Sengoku, there's a genius in Marine, a real genius. Zephyr didn't answer Sengoku's words, but walked over and slapped his hands on Sengoku's table. His eyes flashed with excitement, and he said enthusiastically, It's unbelievable genius. That guy is not at the same level as us, all right. With such strength at the age of 20, he is as strong as a monster. I have a hunch that kid will be able to surpass us old guys in a short time. Seeing Zephyr's excited incoherent look, Sengoku smiled, and said with some joy, Oh, can you surpass our super genius soon? This is really exciting. Who is he? He is Marine Admiral, and there is no one in the entire world who can guarantee defeating him. For Zephyr, Sengoku simply thought that the other party was a rare genius. The emergence of such seedlings in Marine is indeed worth noting, but for Sengoku, what is more important is to be able to see his old friends cheering up. Because of the previous incident, Zephyr was as sluggish as a frost-beaten eggplant all day long, and now at least he has cheered up. But to be honest, Sengoku was also a little curious about the genius Zephyr was talking about. After all, Zephyr was also an admiral of headquarters, and his vision was naturally quite high. A genius who could catch his eyes must be quite unusual. Chapter 4 Sakazuki's Challenge Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 4 Sakazuki's Challenge On the other side. Many students in the elite camp gathered beside Murphy. Murphy, how did it feel to play against Admiral just now? Yes. Tell us. We were all knocked out by Zephyr Admiral in an instant, and we didn't even see what happened behind. I heard from Paluzolino that you didn't seem to be knocked out when you fought against Zephyr Admiral, and you still had an advantage. It's true. In the elite camp, the voices next to Murphy can be said to be quite noisy. Not to mention Murphy's inherent affinity, the battle with Zephyr alone is enough to attract most people's attention. That's why so many people gathered next to him at this time, like a group of curious babies looking forward to it. No, it's just that Zephyr Admiral is kept. If I have the strength to match Admiral now, I won't come to the elite camp as a student. Murphy replied with a smile. As expected. It's expected. Advertisement, if it's true that we can fight Zephyr Admiral now, can't we be Admiral too? After hearing Murphy's words, the students around showed good-natured smiles, looking happy. Although Murphy gave such a modest answer, no one mocked or showed any other unfriendly expressions, let alone looked down on or belittled him because of this. Wait, I'm not convinced. Murphy, come and fight me. At this moment, a man in a red suit came over, his eyes full of fighting intent. That's right, it was Sakazuki who came. In fact, during the previous chat, Sakazuki had already regarded Murphy and Paluzolino as opponents of the same level, but he was instantly killed by Zephyr's fist, and Murphy took advantage of it a little. Seeing the huge gap made Sakazuki quite unconvinced, and wanted to find Murphy to try the real gap between the two. Sakazuki, if it's for the purpose of sparring, I'd be happy to fight with you. If it's just for anger, then there's no need. Murphy smiled, and gently pushed the square on the bridge of his nose glasses. Of course, as a genius who dominates the audience, as a freshman in the training camp, and as a member of a small group of 3, it is natural for Sakazuki to have such an idea. If it is said that Murphy lost to Zephyr after a hard battle, maybe Sakazuki would not say anything, but Zephyr actually suffered a loss in Murphy's hands, which made Sakazuki quite unconvinced, thinking that Zephyr must have something to say. Since you said that, then I'm here to discuss with you. Sakazuki didn't care so much, since Murphy said so, then he continued to follow what Murphy said. Okay. Seeing Sakazuki's strong fighting spirit, Murphy also seemed a little helpless. However, he was quite curious about how his current power compared with the monster Sakazuki. I'll be waiting for you at the training ground. Sakazuki looked impatient, and after getting Murphy's answer, he walked directly towards the training ground. Advertisement following Sakazuki's part, Murphy put his hands in the pockets of his robes and followed without panicking. Soon, most of the members of the elite camp gathered around the training ground. At this time, everyone was talking enthusiastically and looking at Murphy and Sakazuki with great interest. The battle between these two people is interesting. Although it is said that Sakazuki was defeated by Mr. Zephyr, it is Logia demon fruit power after all. It is difficult to say who wins and who loses. It should be Sakazuki who will win. After all, Logia can only deal with people like Zephyr Admiral. We don't have that ability for the time being. Not necessarily. After all, Murphy has taken advantage of Mr. Zephyr. Maybe there is a way to deal with Logia. The atmosphere at the scene became extraordinarily lively. I think fighting with you shouldn't be as merciless as fighting with others. At this time, Sakazuki was staring at Murphy fiercely. If he was fighting with other people, he had to pay attention not to cause fatal damage to them. After all, the destructive power of the molten fruit was too strong, and it was easy to directly leave permanent damage to people. Of course. Please use your strength to your heart's content. Murphy was also ready to fight. But at this moment, there was a loud noise from the surrounding crowd. Immediately afterwards, an unexpected existence came out of the crowd. Marine Admiral Kong and Marine Admiral Sengoku. In addition, many Marine Vice Admirals also appeared here. Advertisement, Marshal Kong. I didn't expect to meet these two little monsters duel when I came here. It's really lucky. The other Marine generals also laughed, and they also heard about the elite camp from Zephyr along the way. Especially Murphy, whom Zephyr admired so much, made everyone present curious. After all, as a Marine Admiral, Zephyr's vision is still very picky. Being able to make Zephyr so respected, I am afraid that it is not impossible to become a Marine Marshal in the future. Kong looked at the two figures in the training ground, then turned his head, looked at Zephyr and asked, which of these two is Murphy? Of course the one who won in the end. Zephyr smiled lightly and replied jokingly. But this also shows Zephyr's confidence in Murphy. Even though he has not started teaching hockey, Zephyr feels in his heart that Murphy will win. It seems that Zephyr's confidence in that kid is not the slightest bit. Garp, who was eating senbei, was also interested, and looked into the training ground with some curiosity, carefully examining the two people inside. One is full of explosive power, as if it is like a volcano. Chapter 5 The Powerful Ryotsu Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 5 The Mighty Ryotsu And what about the other one? It is a gentle and calm feeling exuding from the whole body, which makes people feel quite comfortable. However, although Sakazuki's fighting power is stronger from an intuitive feeling, Garp can vaguely feel a huge energy from Murphy. Even this huge energy made him feel a little depressed. Thinking of this, even Garp was taken aback. A young man who was less than 20 years old could actually make him feel depressed, which was not ordinary. Although it seems that Sakazuki is stronger, it seems that the two sides are not on the same level at all. It seems that the kid is the little guy that Zephyr admires. This kind of power has to be said to be really talented. It seems to have caused some unnecessary commotion. Murphy rubbed his forehead and said, looking at the crowded crowd around him and the apparently distinguished Marine generals in the distance. It's better to focus more on the duel. It's very uncomfortable to lose in front of so many people. It seemed that he was a little worried that Murphy would be affected by the crowd, but Sakazuki reminded him. Initiating a duel with Murphy before was a moment of feverishness, but now seeing so many people gathered around, especially there are a few Marine generals with extraordinary identities, Sakazuki felt a little regretful at this time. In front of so many people, whether he loses or Murphy loses, it may end up being embarrassing. Don't worry, haven't I already said it from the beginning? This is just a sparring session. If you don't dare to spar for fear of losing face, how can Marine's strength be improved? Murphy remained indifferent. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth. Advertisement. As if sensing a change in the aura between the two, the surrounding atmosphere began to become noisy. And Kong and other senior Marine generals also looked at the two with curiosity and expectation. In this case, let's start. Sakazuki didn't say much. His body began to slowly turn into molten liquid, dripping down on the ground of the training ground, burning through the training ground directly. Murphy, on the other hand, remained the same as before, without the slightest movement, not even drawing a knife. Shall I make the first move? If that's the case, then I'll do my part. Seeing Murphy's move, Sakazuki didn't hesitate at all, and his momentum rose steadily, and then he rushed towards Murphy directly. Let you shoot first. No, I've already shot, but you haven't noticed yet. Murphy raised the corner of his mouth slightly. While on the sidelines, already shot. Is it a bluff? Kong frowned tightly, but he didn't notice when Murphy shot. This kid will bring me a surprise. Looking at Kong, who was puzzled, Zephyr laughed. If he hadn't fought Murphy before, he naturally wouldn't have been able to notice that special attack. Training ground. Murphy fixed his eyes on Sakazuki. The blue and extremely thick Ryotsu directly crossed the space and enveloped Sakazuki in an instant. Advertisement. The turbulent Ryotsu is like 1,000 tons of gravity directly pressing on Sakazuki's body. Sakazuki's face turned pale in an instant, his body couldn't help but melt down, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Even Devil Fruit's elemental ability instantly returned to its original form. Sakazuki could feel a tremendous pressure hitting the depths of his soul, squeezing every inch of his body. What is this? Sakazuki's body trembled a little, his face was pale. Under this Ryotsu, he couldn't even do elementalization. All around, the people who were originally lively and wanted to see how the ending would turn into silence in the blink of an eye. Looking at the young figure in white robes and Sakazuki kneeling on the ground, he couldn't help swallowing, not knowing what to say. Originally, I thought it would be a fierce battle between dragons and tigers, but I didn't expect such a result in the end. Kong was stunned. Sengoku was equally stunned. The scene became quite embarrassing and weird for a while. After a few seconds, Kong turned his head to look at Zephyr and asked, Is this the use of Conqueror's Haki? Even though Kong has fought against big pirates like those monsters for many years, he has never seen a guy who can use his aura to such an extent. Advertisement. The Conqueror's Haki, in particular, is pretty good for clearing out some minions, and there's no way to get all the pressure off of one person as accurately as Murphy can. No, it should be Devil Fruit ability. At this moment, Garp directly denied it. After years of fighting with Roger, the man who cultivated Conqueror's Haki to ultimate, Garp can be 100% sure that this must not be Conqueror's Haki. However, judging from the pressure Sakazuki was under, and the terrifying Ryotsu that Murphy radiated unconsciously, this force was probably even more overbearing than Conqueror's Haki. And Murphy walked up to Sakazuki step by step like this, looked at Sakazuki who had been suppressed by Ryotsu to the point of immobility, and slowly took out the Zanpakuto in his hand and pointed it at Sakazuki's neck. Sakazuki, I won this battle. Looking at Sakazuki who was kneeling on the ground in front of him, Murphy gently pushed the lens of the glasses, which reflected bright sunlight, so dazzling that it was impossible to see Murphy's pupils. Damn it. You actually overwhelmed me with just momentum. You don't even need to draw your sword. Sakazuki stared at Zanpakuto who was still in the sheath in front of him, clenched his teeth tightly, and his face turned red. Just momentum. Just his aura suppressed him, who claimed to be a genius, so that he couldn't move. Chapter 6 Kong's Expectations. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 6 Kong's Expectations. And just when Sakazuki's thoughts were flying, suddenly, the thick Ryotsu exerted on him suddenly disappeared. You. Feeling the pressure off his body, Sakazuki raised his head to look at Murphy in some puzzlement. At this time, Murphy had already put the Zanpakuto back around his waist, and then stretched out his hand to him and said, "Didn't I say it from the beginning? This is just a discussion." Looking at the gentle and elegant young man in front of him, the aggrieved and anger in Sakazuki's heart also dissipated a lot. "Sorry, I was rude." Although he felt a little embarrassed, Sakazuki still held out his hand. Then Murphy pulled him up off the ground with a little force. Indeed, it was clearly agreed at the beginning that it was only for the purpose of sparring, but he cared about winning and losing, and was narrow-minded. This appearance was really ugly. It's a good thing to be victorious. If you don't even have the victorious mind, you won't be able to grow. Murphy shook his head, slightly raised the corners of his mouth, and showed a gentle smile. But it's too ugly to lose. Sakazuki smiled helplessly. Just now in front of Murphy's Ryotsu, he couldn't even stand up. The heavy pressure made him completely convinced by Murphy's strength. Although he is so much younger than himself, but has such terrifying strength, Murphy must have gone through countless efforts and sweat to reach this level. Advertisement and the other party was so kind to save face for himself, and at the same time gave him enough respect, but he was so narrow-minded, which made Sakazuki feel a little guilty. Whether it is strength or character, he seems to be far from Murphy. He served it, completely convinced. Younger than yourself, more talented than yourself, harder than yourself, stronger than yourself, and even better in character than yourself. Being crushed in such a way that Sakazuki couldn't even think of competing with Murphy. Open black lens bracket defeat the future Marine Admiral Sakazuki. The template has been unlocked to 1.8% close black lens bracket. Looking at his own system template prompt, Murphy slightly raised the corners of his mouth. I have to say that he is worthy of being the future Marshal Marine. Although he is not very strong now, after defeating him, he also brought him a 0.8% unlocking level, which is almost catching up with his years of training. Meanwhile, outside, this kid has a very likable personality. Indeed, she has a gentle personality like Jade, a standard gentleman's demeanor. And the strength is so strong, it is really rare to find a gentle and strong person. The Marine generals on the side were also conquered by Murphy's gentle temperament. Advertisement, no matter who it is, such a guy can't raise hostility. It's what everyone yearns for, but they can't do it. Soon, Kong walked towards the training ground, came to Murphy's side and asked, "You are Murphy, right? Was that Conqueror's Haki just now? Or your ability?" Although Garp just said that this is not Conqueror's Haki, Kong is still not sure, so he wants to ask Murphy to confirm it himself. "It's my ability." Paramecia's, Murphy didn't have much to unlock. As for Paramecia's ability itself, there are all kinds of strange things, and there is no way to find out if you want to investigate. As for the Devil Fruit illustrated book, no one can guarantee that all Devil Fruit information is included. Paramecia. What a genius. Hearing what Murphy said, Kong also had a look of emotion. Before mastering Haki, Logia's advantage naturally needless to say, but Murphy used his own efforts to suppress Sakazuki with a Paramecia fruit. If after contacting Haki, the advantage of Logia's ability is reduced by a part, then I am afraid that Murphy will surpass Sakazuki even further. But for the title of genius, although Murphy relied on Aizen's template to become stronger, he also inherited that incomparably powerful talent. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a genius. And he can feel the incomparable power of Aizen, which is also very helpful for his growth rate. It's like playing a game. It's very difficult for you to practice a full level number for the first time, but when you become stronger, it's much easier to practice the second full level number. I just said that this kid is a rare genius. Even Zephyr's serious face couldn't help showing a smile after seeing Murphy. It's just that I was lucky enough to get a good devil fruit. Murphy smiled faintly and said very modestly. Advertisement? Luck? Hearing Murphy's words, Sakazuki and Paluzolino looked at each other with strange eyes. If you want to talk about luck, logically speaking, the two of them should have better luck, right? On one side is Logia, and the top level is naturally Devil Fruit ability, while Murphy is just Paramecia. Why are there so many gaps between them? Okay, don't be too humble. You guys should leave too. Kong patted Murphy on the shoulder, quite optimistic about this young man who looked gentle, humble, hardworking and powerful. Then he glanced at Zephyr at the side and said, "Train up this kid well. This kid has the potential to be a Marine Marshal." After speaking, Kong left directly. However, what Kong said just now had a terrible impact on many people. The potential of Marshal Marine. What is this concept? Marshal Marine is the highest command of Marine, and Marine is the most powerful violent organization in the world. It is conceivable what this position represents. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect Sengoku, you kid, to be promoted to Marine Marshal, and your next position has already been determined. Hearing Kong's words, Garp on the side immediately laughed. Now the only admiral in Marine is Sengoku, and the next Marine Marshal can be said to be well known by everyone. Chapter 7 Teaching Haki Previous Chapter Next Chapter Advertisement. Chapter 7 Teaching Haki. It's just a little funny that Kong has already found the next successor for Sengoku before giving this position to Sengoku. Of course, this is not a big deal for Garp and his old comrades. However, it is not a concept at all for others. Whether it's the battle between Murphy and Sakazuki or Kong's words are deeply engraved in everyone's mind. Everyone knew that if there were no accidents in the future, the person in front of him would be the future Marine Marshal. It's really troublesome. Murphy shook his head helplessly, seeing the people around him discussing. He also never thought that Kong would be so appreciative of his simple sparring with Sakazuki. Especially since the two of them are still just a student, and Sakazuki is not too strong now, Kong would actually say that. But if you think about it carefully, you can understand that although there is no actual fight, the level of these people may be seen through at a glance in front of monsters of that level. Although the current Sakazuki is not that strong yet, Kong can also see that Sakazuki has the potential to be a Marine Marshal. Advertisement in the face of such Sakazuki, the younger Murphy showed the strength of crushing. The most important point is that after a short conversation, I am particularly optimistic about Murphy's character Kong. But anyway, the end result is that the discussion about Murphy has become more and more heated. On the way out, Sengoku said with emotion on his face, "I thought Zephyr would put a lot of pressure on Marine after you retreated behind the scenes, but I didn't expect that the elite camp taught by you would directly attract such monsters to join Marine. And that kid is only less than 20 years old, this talent is really terrifying. Other things can be faked to make up for it, but talent alone cannot. When the three of us were 20 years old, we probably could have beaten this kid together." Garp thought for a while and said. The three he mentioned naturally referred to him and Zephyr Sengoku. It's hard to believe, but it seems to be the case. Zephyr sighed. Unexpectedly, they who think they are geniuses will one day feel lonely because they feel that other people's talents are too strong. That kid is indeed a monster. There is no way to use the word genius to describe it. Kong also couldn't help but said, if you give him a certain time and conditions, it's not hard to imagine that he will definitely become a very terrifying strongman, and there will be no accidents. Fortunately, this kid was absorbed by our Marine. If he becomes a pirate, he will definitely become a pirate stronger than rocks. Advertisement, you don't have to worry too much about that, you've all seen that kid's character, and he will never get involved with a guy like a pirate. After the words fell, the others nodded one after another. In fact, what impresses people the most is not Murphy's strength, but the kind of gentle and elegant special temperament that cannot be picked out in the world, just like a natural good guy, gentle enough to ultimate, so that everyone is willing to take the initiative to go get close to him, lean on him. After that, there's Murphy's incredible talent. Zephyr, I will leave this incredible monster to you to teach, Kong said very seriously. Although it is said that his next job must be Sengoku, but if Murphy does not die halfway, then the candidate after Sengoku must be Murphy. Kong naturally attaches great importance to the future of Marine. Don't worry, I will pay close attention to these boys and teach them the two-color hockey to avoid their premature death. Zephyr smiled. He was already disheartened after his wife and children were killed, but he did not expect to regain his enthusiasm in the elite camp. With his strength, at least he can guarantee that he will not decline too much within 10 years, and there is absolutely no problem in protecting these little monsters from growing up. Now that he has accepted this responsibility, he will do his best to prevent these little monsters from dying prematurely. It's a good thing to cheer you up again. Of course, Kong didn't say this sentence, but just thought it silently in his heart. But he can probably predict that Zephyr will start teaching these young people seriously. Advertisement, if Zephyr is really serious, the training will be quite hard and even harsh. Next day, after a whole day of rest yesterday, the training of the elite camp can also be said to have officially kicked off. Those who can stay in the elite camp will not have a bad foundation, at least they have reached the physical fitness that can directly learn hockey. Zephyr didn't think too much, since he wanted to teach these elites, he should start with the most direct, simplest and most important things. Zephyr, standing in front of the crowd, stared at them with a serious face. Today, what I want to teach you is very simple, that is, the use of two-color hockey. Of course, I don't expect you to learn all of these in one day, but I just want to let you know what to learn in no direction of effort. First, you need to understand what a two-color hockey is. Armament hockey can enhance personal defense power, acting like invisible armor. It can also evolve into attack power, and then compete with demon fruit power, and even touch the entity of the Logia fruit ability user. In addition to being wrapped around the body, armament hockey can also be wrapped around the weapon to enhance the attack power. When the move is made, a part of the skin will not only turn black, but also harder than steel. Chapter 8. Monsters with different talents. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 8. Monsters with different talents. Observation hockey. The ability to strongly feel the opponent's voice is called observation hockey. Once this power is enhanced, you can read the position and number of enemies outside your line of sight, as well as the actions the opponent will take in the next moment. Observation hockey has a lot to do with psychology, and you need to be calm to use it. Observation hockey cannot be used when you are emotional and lose your mind. Immediately afterwards, Zephyr stretched out his hand and said, "Next, I will show you what armament hockey is." After the words fell, Zephyr's arm turned pitch black, and then he casually took out a knife, crushing the knife with his fingers easily. This is armament hockey. It can not only improve defense but also attack. I believe you have seen it clearly. Seeing this scene, Murphy didn't change much in his heart. In fact, from the very beginning, he didn't intend to study armament hockey seriously, let alone cultivate armament hockey to ultimate like Garp Zephyr did. The reason is also very simple. It is undeniable that armament hockey is indeed very powerful, but in comparison, Ryotsu is the way to really make him stronger, and using Kido to attack directly can also deal with Logia abilities like armament hockey. So majoring in armament hockey doesn't make sense for Murphy. While talking, Zephyr on the side had finished showing armament hockey, and then said, "Sakazuki, now you come up and attack me, don't show mercy, until I call to stop the position." "Yes." Advertisement hearing the order, Sakazuki replied immediately, and walked out, his arm turned into magma and punched Zephyr. But the result can be imagined. Even with his eyes closed, Sakazuki's movements were still easily perceived by Zephyr in advance, and he easily avoided it. And Sakazuki didn't stop there, but swung his fist even faster, aiming at Zephyr's body fiercely and directly blasting him down. However, without exception, every punch of Sakazuki was sensed by Zephyr, and he easily dodged it, making all of Sakazuki's attacks completely ineffective without any effort. Observation hockey. Seeing this scene, Murphy also squinted his eyes. For him, this observation hockey is naturally one of his main purposes. It can predict the enemy's attack route in advance, and it can even completely eliminate the need for vision. This ability is very important in battle. The auxiliary effect in is quite obvious. Although it is not directly offensive, its usefulness is no less than that of armament hockey, and it is even more important in a certain concept. To a certain extent, as long as your observation hockey is strong enough, even if the opponent has countless fighting methods, they are of no use to you. No matter how strong the attack is, if it can't hit the enemy, it is meaningless. Okay, then form a random team, close your eyes and let another person attack, and the person with closed eyes will dodge. You need to rely on your body's instinctive perception to determine the location of the attack. As long as you can do this, then even if you understand what I just mean, you have started observation hockey. Murphy, come and practice with me. After finishing speaking, Zephyr also let Murphy come to him without hesitation. Marine itself worships the strong, and Murphy has shown enough potential that he may even be qualified to become a Marine Marshal, so it is normal to get a little special treatment. Advertisement others didn't say much about it, and Murphy also walked directly in front of Zephyr, and then sat down with his eyes closed. Murphy, although you are stronger than Sakazuki and the others now, it is only for now. Mastering hockey and hockey's strength is an important criterion for measuring your actual combat effectiveness in the future. Don't be complacent now. Seeing Murphy approaching, Zephyr also reminded him. He didn't want to see Murphy get complacent and let his talents go to waste. Especially for two-color hockey, it is difficult to achieve certain achievements without going through a long period of penance. Immediately afterwards, Zephyr directly raised the stick in his hand, and knocked it on the head of Murphy, whose eyes were already closed. However, in the next second, something unexpected happened. Murphy just dodges. How is it possible? By chance? Seeing this situation, Zephyr made a bold prediction in his heart, but because it was too bold, he attributed this time to luck for the time being. Immediately afterwards, he waved the stick in his hand again at a faster speed. This time, Murphy still turned slightly sideways, dodging Zephyr's attack again. Advertisement so the stick swung again, the third, fourth, fifth time. And every time Zephyr strikes, no matter how much he speeds up, Murphy dodges him with ease. If it's just one time, he can still use luck, chance to explain. However, if so many consecutive attacks have been dodged, the probability of the word chance appearing is almost zero. Murphy. Try using armament hockey. Zephyr stared at Murphy seriously, trying to see if it was what he thought. Armament hockey? Murphy frowned, then looked at his arm, but tried armament hockey anyway. Immediately afterwards, a light layer of armament hockey covered his fist. Is that really the case? But it's normal. If Aizen wasn't that kind of monster with extraordinary talents, it would be impossible to reach that point. After all, Aizen Sosuke was just an ordinary person in Wandering Soul Street back then. Murphy silently to think of. Even if he didn't deliberately plan to learn armament hockey, but just by listening to Zephyr's explanation and demonstration, he can directly get started with armament hockey. Chapter 9 The Terrified Garp Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 9 The Terrified Garp This can no longer be described as an ordinary genius. Only monsters like Aizen who have grown from an ordinary ghost to shake the world can do it, and it is not incomprehensible that he, who inherited Aizen's talent, can learn these things in an instant. This. Looking at the faint armament hockey in Murphy's hand, and the observation hockey who just easily dodged his own attack. All the words that had been meant to comfort the genius and knock Murphy from getting too complacent were gone. Garp's office boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. The knock on the door did not wake Garp, who was sleeping. Creak. The office door is opened. Boom. At this time, the big bubble above Garp's nostrils burst directly, and then Garp looked around with some doubts, saw Zephyr next to him, and asked a little strangely, Zephyr, didn't you say that you are going to teach that person today? Help the boy hockey. It's over so soon. You can't be lazy with those little guys like me. Advertisement. Seeing Zephyr come to his office, Garp said something strange. Although Garp is a bit old-fashioned and often unreliable, he is serious about teaching people, especially those who may become the pillars of the Marine. However, Zephyr did not answer Garp's words, but a look of excitement flashed in his eyes, and he asked Garp in a very serious tone. Garp, I want to ask you a serious question. Do you think there are really monsters in this world so shocking? Incredible genius? Having said that, Zephyr's eyes shine with endless passion and blood. Incredibly true genius? Did that little Murphy give you another thrill? This made Garp a little confused. Genius? Although some people feel uncomfortable, it has to be admitted that some people are really geniuses ahead of others. Maybe you need to spend a year or more to learn something, but for others, just try it out, you can easily reach it, or even do it better than you. But looking at Zephyr's excited look, it seems that things are not that simple. Let me tell you, that kid is definitely a true genius. The gap between him and you and me is like the gap between you and me and ordinary people. I have never seen a person's talent so strong in my life. To such an extent. Zephyr took a deep breath, and then said very seriously, if this kid is Marine, then Marine can guarantee that the entire sea will be suppressed for at least 50 years. If this kid is a pirate, then it will be the most troublesome pirate in the past 800 years. He can even shake the whole world by himself. What the hell did that kid do? Seeing such a high evaluation of Zephyr, Garp was even more puzzled. This is probably too exaggerated. Advertisement to compare Murphy's gap with them to the gap between them and ordinary people is too exaggerated. Doesn't that mean that when Murphy grows up in the future, beating them is as easy as beating ordinary people? Then let me ask you a question first. How long did it take you to learn armament hockey and observation hockey? Seeing Garp's disbelief, Zephyr didn't directly say what happened, but asked Garp about his experience in learning hockey. Learning hockey? Garp frowned. Although a long time has passed, the experience of learning hockey is still very impressive to him. It took about 10 days for the armed color, and it took nearly half a month for the knowledge color. It has to be said that Garp's talent is also quite powerful, and he touched the threshold of armament hockey in just 10 days. If you were someone else, let alone 10 days and a half months to get started, you might not be able to get started with hockey in half a year, or even a lifetime. Armament hockey is okay, especially observation hockey is even more difficult to cultivate, almost can only rely on talent. So, if you know how long that kid has been using two-color hockey for starters, you'll understand why I'm saying that. Zephyr smiled wryly. To be honest, he was a little bit shocked. Beginning with two-color hockey? Could it be that the kid has already started with two-color hockey? Garp said with his eyes widened in disbelief. How long has Zephyr been teaching these guys? I didn't even have time in the morning, and the talent to get started with two-color hockey so quickly is simply unbelievable. Advertisement. That's right, that kid Murphy has already started two-color hockey, and observation hockey's attainment is quite high. The most important thing is, I just explained to them about the characteristics of hockey content and then demonstrated it to them, and he directly comprehended it. Got a two-color hockey. It's easy to get started with observation hockey just like this. I can say that this talent is unheard of. After the words fell, Garp was stunned. Just that? Can you learn two-color hockey in this way? It would be too scary to say this, and I can be sure that he has never been in contact with hockey before, and there is no reason to hide the fact that he knows hockey. Zephyr nodded solemnly. He can still be sure of this, but it was precisely because of this that he was so shocked. This kind of talent is probably something that no one else can even dream of. If he hadn't known Zephyr, Garp would have thought the man in front of him was a lunatic. Incredible ability to learn. Anyway, that guy is definitely a real monster, and in the future, there will be no one who can compete with him. In the future era, if other people are stars in the sky, then he will be the one hanging in the sky. The biggest sun in the middle. Zephyr said with a heavy sigh of relief, with complicated emotions. Chapter 10 Target Kaido. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 10 Target Kaido. He has already learned two-color hockey, and at this learning speed, 1 month, no, in 10 days, I'm afraid he can learn what others need to learn in a year. I think the elite camp may not be suitable for that kid gone. Garp looked at Zephyr and said very seriously. To be honest, Garp was a little moved, and he also wanted to accept Murphy as a student. And with Murphy's talent staying in the elite camp, what other people spent a year learning might be able to learn it in 10 days. What he lacks now is real experience, a life and death fight outside. So Garp wants Murphy to come and fight on his ship. As long as he's around, even the Whitebeard monsters can't do much with Murphy. Moreover, although Murphy is growing fast, the problem is that the growth is too fast, and they are also afraid that Murphy will have some slack or arrogant thoughts. So Garp also wanted Murphy to go directly to New World to see those monsters, to suppress Murphy's spirit, so that Murphy would not lose himself. Advertisement, of course. If Murphy knew what Garp and the others thought, they would probably laugh out loud. Although the world of One Piece is not weak, it is still worse than those guys who can destroy the world or even destroy a galaxy or even rival the universe itself. A lot of. Now that he got the system, it is impossible for him to stay in this world. Okay, I'll give him some basic knowledge in the past 2 days, and then I'll leave it to the people on your boat to teach him about the sea. Zephyr nodded after thinking for a while. It is really inappropriate to put a monster like Murphy together with other people in the elite battalion, so he plans to spend 2 days to give Murphy some unique skills and important experience. As for some ordinary basic knowledge, Garp will be on board. It's almost enough to find 2 people at random. Time passed so quickly in 2 days. Zephyr handed over almost all of his experience to Murphy, including some whole cards and key information. Especially some key information that is rarely known. If Murphy is captured by some forces, these information can be used as bargaining chips in exchange. It can be said that in order to ensure Murphy's safety, Zephyr has completely reserved nothing. And in these 2 days, Murphy also played against the people in the elite camp one after another. Counting the previous experience of defeating Sakazuki, his Aizen template has been successfully unlocked to 4.16% at this time. This is almost 3 times the experience value of his previous 10 years of penance. I have to say that the elite camp is indeed a good place. Most of the people here will hold important positions in the future, and there are even 2 Marine Admirals among them. Advertisement: Sakazuki and Paluzolino alone give him close to 1.6% experience. In addition to counting the experience points given by other important Vice Admirals in the future, it has reached this point. Coupled with mastering the 2-color hockey, it can be said that he has the ability to deal with most situations in the New World. Unless it's that lunatic from the Golden Lion pirates. As for other pirates with a bounty of more than 10 million, they are basically instantly killed in front of him. Only pirates with a bounty close to 100 million can slightly compete with Murphy. You must know that the 100 million rewards in this era are considered relatively powerful pirates, and within the scope of New World, the number of pirates at this level is relatively large. If you go alone, the more troublesome thing is that the other party is a pirate group with more people. If there are multiple high bounty pirates, it will still be a tough fight. But generally speaking, as long as you don't encounter the 3 big pirates, basically there will be no accidents. What's more, he is now on Garp's boat. Even if the 3 big pirates want to touch him, it is probably unlikely. But only if he's on Garp's boat. Is it as expected? Murphy smiled calmly, looking at the small wooden boat under his feet. That fellow Garp would not protect him obediently like a personal bodyguard, but after leaving naval headquarters and stepping into the range of New World, he directly gave him a sloop for him to roam freely. Reminiscent of Garp's attitude with Luffy when he was a child in training, Murphy also felt that it was expected. However, presumably Garp is still paying attention to my movements. Besides, even Hogyoku has not been unlocked yet. It is still too early to cultivate your own power. The most important thing now is to improve your strength. Confirmed that there is no one around through observation hockey after that. The smile on Murphy's face seemed to be a little deeper, but it was different from the gentle and elegant smile in the past. Advertisement this time. The smile on his face showed more of the evil charm hockey and the aura of looking down on the world. In addition to basic training, the system can only gain experience by defeating famous and powerful guys in the original book. If you can defeat Whitebeard, you may get a lot of experience, but it is too early to focus on Whitebeard now. Murphy thought. Although Whitebeard can bring him a large part of the template unlocking level, and there is not much danger in challenging Whitebeard, but the possibility of defeating Whitebeard is completely 0%. And in this system, if you don't defeat the enemy, you can't get the unlock experience. Kaido of the Beasts? If it's that guy, he'd be a good candidate. Soon, Murphy has identified his first target, the future 4 Emperors Kaido of the Beasts. But at this moment, Kaido of the Beasts has only shown a strong potential, not as strong as Whitebeard, and he can handle it temporarily with his strength. But the most urgent task for Murphy now is to find a place to replenish some supplies, and to inquire about the whereabouts of some pirates in New World. After all, that jerk Garp only left Murphy with a week's worth of food when he let him go off on his own. Chapter 11 Paying with the Head. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 11 Paying with the Head. After sailing for nearly 3 days, finally, Murphy saw a small island in the distance. Regardless of the situation on the island, Murphy directly followed the direction of this side and approached the shore of the island. Around the coast, many pirate ships can also be seen docking on the coast. Is it a small island where pirates gather? After making a simple judgment in his heart, Murphy leaned directly towards the island. The first is because he needs some supplies, and the second is because his current clothes and boat will not reveal his identity as a marine, as long as he quietly collects some information. I hope to find news about the Kaido of the Beasts pirate group. With this mentality, Murphy walked directly towards the central area of the island. Arrive at the central area. It has to be said that the level of prosperity here is not even worse than that of some countries. After all, pirates are a group of guys who are rich and keen on spending. And there are all kinds of shops on both sides of the street, including weapon shops, small vendors, taverns, clothing stores and so on. Advertisement. This tavern looks nice. After looking around for a while, Murphy found a tavern with a large number of people in a messy place. This kind of place is the most suitable place to inquire about news. Without hesitation, Murphy stepped directly into the tavern. As soon as he walked in, a strong smell of wine came over his face. It was not a pleasant smell of mellow wine, but a smell that made people feel uncomfortable. After all, there are so many pirates, and most of them are a bunch of drunkards. It is normal to feel this way. Murphy didn't care so much and went straight to the front desk. At the front desk is a beautiful mature woman with a voluptuous figure and revealing clothes that makes one's blood boil. Oh, is there such a handsome young guy here? He's my sister's type? If you encounter any trouble, you can come to me. There are not many things I can't settle on this island. Seeing Murphy's unusual temperament, the mature woman's beautiful eyes looked at Murphy like a big sister. As for the truth or falsehood in the words, it can only be judged by each person, but a woman who can open a hotel in a place where a lot of vicious pirates gather must be quite extraordinary. I want to inquire about something. Murphy didn't pay attention to the mature woman's words, but said straight to the point. Information? No problem, but you should know the rules of this business, right? Murphy replied lightly. No problem, isn't it just to pay Bailey first, whether it is true or not? Advertisement regarding some situations, Zephyr has naturally explained to Murphy, which is basically a rule in the industry. But relatively speaking, the Bailey paid is naturally not too much, because the person who provided the information does not need to bear any responsibility at all. You look very young, but you know this business very well. Seeing Murphy's calm look, the enchanting mature woman became even more curious. The slender fingertips involuntarily stretched out towards Murphy's chin, as if flirting. However, just when the hand was stretched out less than halfway, the enchanting woman's movements suddenly stopped. It seemed that she had guessed something. The mature woman looked at Murphy's young face, still indifferent, but this time, she seemed to have a sense of confidence that everything was under control. Although there is no evidence, she can be sure that her inability to move her body is caused by Murphy. I need to inquire about Kaido's traces. How many Baileys are needed? Murphy said directly. What? The mature woman was taken aback. At this moment he was sure that Murphy was definitely not as simple as it appeared on the surface. Who is Kaido? He used to be a member of the Rock's Pirates, and he is also considered a big pirate with a place in the entire New World. Generally speaking, inquiring about the whereabouts of a certain pirate group is basically a matter of preparing for a direct war and sneak attack with the other party. In other words, this mild-looking young man in front of him actually has the ability to fight this kind of big pirate. A pirate at Kaido's level, I believe you should have some information. Murphy continued to ask. Of course, 5 million Baileys is enough for this kind of information that can be found anywhere. The mature and enchanting woman replied. Advertisement indeed. The whereabouts of this kind of big pirate are basically known to the pirates in New World to some extent. Basically it can be said to be bad street information. 5 million Baileys? It's not too expensive, but you must know a rule. Trading Baileys can be replaced by human heads. Saying so, Zanpakuto in Murphy's hand pointed in one direction. In the direction over there, a small group of about 20 people was drinking in a circle, and in the most conspicuous position, a strong black man over 2 meters tall seemed to be their leader. Bahid. A pirate under the protection of the Golden Lion Pirates. The bounty is 35 million Baileys. It should be enough to use this guy's head as intelligence money. 35 million Baileys, if placed in the future era of great pirates, it is estimated that they will be able to offer a reward of over 100 million. In Marine's reward order, Murphy also noticed the existence of this guy. Do you guys know what you're talking about? Seeing Murphy pointing the finger at the Golden Lion, the proprietress was also startled by Murphy's words. As a well-connected hotel owner, of course she knew who that guy was. With a bounty of 35 million, he is considered a pretty good guy on this small island. But even the guy with a bounty of more than 50 million would not dare to trouble him. The reason is simple, this guy is under the command of the Golden Lion Pirates. Chapter 12 Provoking the Golden Lion Pirates. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 12 Provoking the Golden Lion Pirates. Looking at your appearance, you should also understand the value of that guy's head, so it seems that the transaction will be no problem. Murphy replied with a light smile. It's as if everything is under control. Seeing Murphy's confident eyes, the mature woman trembled all over, and even dropped the wine in her hand to the ground, staring blankly at Murphy with her beautiful eyes. Self-confident, haughty, yet extremely gentle, this almost completely different style is perfectly displayed by the man in front of him. Obviously he knows that it is absolutely wrong to anger the Golden Lion Pirates, and once he does so, it will attract revenge from the Golden Lion fleet. But she felt inexplicably confident in the man in front of her. After a while, the mature and coquettish woman said, "According to the rules, if you can get her head, then I dare to take it, but everything you do has nothing to do with me, you only represent your own position and the Golden Lion see the gang of thieves is at war. I can't stand the power of that monster in a tavern." Certainly. There was a smile on Murphy's face as always, and after getting her answer, Murphy walked directly towards Bahed. The noisy atmosphere stagnated at this moment. As if he had noticed something, many pirates had already left the tavern in advance. Advertisement. And just after Murphy moved 3 or 4 steps, the 20 or so pirates around Bahed all stood up. After all, they were pirates in the New World, and Murphy didn't intend to deliberately hide his tracks, so these people naturally sensed the hostility from Murphy. "Boy, at your age you dare to." The words are not finished yet. Bang! Accompanied by a crisp knife cry, the extremely fierce knife light flashed directly. Under the dim lighting of the bar, it looks very mysterious. "Don't be nervous, it's just a moment." Murphy smiled softly. Boom! An extremely heavy muffled sound suddenly sounded, and everyone present, especially those close to Murphy, seemed to feel that their eardrums were shattered. The entire tavern began to shake violently. No, it's not that the tavern is shaking, but their souls are already shaking. An invisible sense of oppression emanated from the gentle-looking man in front of him. In an instant, the foreheads of these 20 or so pirates were all covered with cold sweat. Oh, it doesn't look like an ordinary fish, should it be the cadres of the pirate group? If so. Boom. The heavy pressure on these few people increased again. Advertisement. Boom, boom, boom. One after another, everyone knelt directly in front of Murphy. At this moment, they no longer knew what kind of situation they were in. They just felt that their brains were blank, as if their souls were about to be completely torn apart. How is it possible, conquerors? No, is it purely using your own aura? Seeing Murphy walking all the way to the kneeling pirate, the coquettish mature woman said involuntarily. Murphy, on the other hand, ignored the pirates kneeling on the ground, and walked forward step by step in front of Bahed. "Sorry, I don't have the money to pay the boss for information, so I can only borrow your head." Hearing Murphy's plain but arrogant words, everyone didn't know how to speak. The unstoppable guy who used the Golden Lion's flag to do evil on this island was subdued in such a simple way. And according to Murphy's words, the other party's head must be taken off directly. Bahed was furious. Although Murphy's Reiatsu suppressed him and made him unable to move, he was still better than others, at least he didn't lose consciousness completely. "Boy, you are courting death. Do you know what the Golden Lion pirates represent? If you just want to stand up and become famous, what happened today is enough. I advise you not to anger our Golden Lion pirates. Thieves." Bahed looked at Murphy with a grim look. A brat who was still young, actually suppressed his entire pirate group, and even threatened to take his head. How could he endure this kind of weakening and provocation? But now he knows very well that he has no strength to fight back, so he can only use his biggest hole card, the Golden Lion Pirates. As long as today is over, he can use the power of the Golden Lion Pirates to take direct revenge. What he said now was only to temporarily stabilize Murphy. Once given the chance, he would definitely bite back without hesitation. This is a real pirate. However, how could Murphy, who has Aizen's thousands of years of memory, be influenced by the other party's simple words? Advertisement. Is this your last words? Without any emotional fluctuations, a layer of jet black hockey began to spread on the Zanpakuto in his hand, and then covered the blade. The Zanpakuto covered in armament hockey swung directly at the immobile Bahed who had been suppressed by Reiatsu. Don't want. Pooh. A line of blood spilled on a corner of the hotel along the direction of the knife swing. One opened its mouth, and its face was filled with a mixture of panic and ferocity, which looked extremely funny. And the pungent bloody smell is slowly flowing in the air. Ordinary. After a while, Bahed's body fell to his knees weakly. Armament hockey on Zanpakuto retreated, and Murphy turned around to look at the enchanting mature woman in the store and said, "I have already paid the money, and the rest should be regarded as compensation for disturbing your customers today. Tell me about Kaido." Kaido is in an area called Lembongan Sea in the northwest. As for the specific island, I don't know. Because Kaido often randomly chooses deserted islands with no one to hold a banquet. Immediately afterwards, the mature and enchanting woman quickly took out a map and handed it to Murphy. Chapter 13 Murphy's Backstage. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 13 Murphy's Backstage. As for the money, I don't need a lot of money. I'll give you the 30 million Baileys, and I'll only charge the intelligence fee that I should have. After speaking, this enchanting mature woman immediately took out 30 million Baileys. Handed it to Murphy. It's not that she doesn't lack money, it's just that the money is too hot in her hands. Interesting. Murphy took a meaningful look at the woman in front of him, and had to say that she was very good at being a person. If she really took the money, it would be unreasonable for the Golden Lion to come to her. Although I like money, At least I know what I can take and what I can't take. And Murphy didn't show any politeness, just took the package of Bailey and left the bar directly. As for the Golden Lion Pirates. That's right, the Golden Lion Pirates are very strong. But so what? The miscellaneous fish he just dealt with had a background, didn't he have one? No, Murphy not only has a backstage, but the largest backstage in the world, Naval Headquarters. If Golden Lion really intends to cause trouble for an unknown Bailey miscellaneous fish with tens of millions, then they have to ask Naval Headquarters if they agree. Do not forget, now Murphy is Kong's candidate for the future Marine Marshal, and the Marine Admiral Zephyr Hero Garp is considered his current mentor. Advertisement. Not to mention the entire Naval Headquarters, I'm afraid even Garp, the Golden Lion may not be able to handle it. After all, the current Garp is the hero who defeated the Rocks. Both Golden Lion and Whitebeard were just Rocks crew members. By the way, I forgot to deal with a few bugs. But it's not too late to deal with it now. Just when everyone thought Murphy was leaving, suddenly, Murphy's unhurried and gentle voice came from the door. Boom. In the next second, a wave of blue Reiatsu fell directly from the sky, aiming directly at the more than 20 pirates. Without the slightest chance to react, just for a moment, the 20 or so pirates were all instantly turned into plasma under Murphy's Reiatsu. After doing all this, Murphy left this place completely. Only the owner of the tavern trembling with fear and the corpses of the pirates who couldn't see clearly were left behind. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the owner of the tavern still felt a chill in his heart. If Murphy had wanted to erase all traces just now, he might have become one of these horrible corpses. It seems that this place can't stay any longer, take away all the money of this pirate group and give up here. The tavern owner thought for a while, looking at the scattered corpses and let out a foul breath. Such a big thing happened, even if according to the rules, it has nothing to do with her, but if Golden Lion just insists on making trouble for her, she has nothing to do. It just so happened that all the members of this pirate group were dead, so it would not be difficult to use her means to get rid of the remaining miscellaneous fish on the opposite ship and then steal their treasure. Advertisement. With this money, she doesn't need to open a tavern here. You can also hide from the Golden Lion Pirates. No way, the reputation of the Golden Lion Pirates is too great. As the most terrifying pirate in the New World, if she provokes such a guy, a small person like her will only be crushed to death like an ant. Of course, the follow-up in the tavern naturally has nothing to do with Murphy. With 30 million Baileys, Murphy also went directly to the stores specially set up for supplies, and spent about an hour purchasing the needed supplies. In this way, all the purposes of his business have been successfully achieved. Not only did they supply the necessary supplies, but they also got a lot of Bailey and the whereabouts of Kaido. Although the truth about Kaido's whereabouts is unknown, it is much better than aimlessness. What's more, he has a whole year to be active in New World, and he only needs to return to Naval Headquarters after 1 year to participate in the final assessment of the elite camp and be assigned an official position. Without any further stops, after putting everything on the boat, Murphy set sail and left the island. Simultaneously, somewhere in the New World, above the sky. Dr. Indigo, what are you looking for me for? A heavy voice came from the bow. Advertisement. I saw a man with long golden hair like a lion's mane standing on the bow of the boat, wearing traditional Japanese clothes with orange and yellow stripes. The whole person looked like it's a golden-haired lion. In fact, he is indeed famous all over the world because of this outside, the captain of the Flying Pirates, the admiral of the Golden Lion Pirate Fleet, Flying Pirates. Thief. A pirate group attached to our reputation has been wiped out. Okay. Hearing this, Golden Lion frowned. However, his expression didn't change much, he just said lightly, "What's wrong with being killed? The weak eat the strong. Isn't it normal to be killed in this sea area of New World? In this sea area, every day know how many pirate groups were wiped out, and how many pirate groups came in from the Grand Line. To be honest, Sikong is used to this kind of thing for them." Who is the other party? People from Roger Pirates or Whitebeard? Golden Lion asked subconsciously. After all, within the scope of New World, only these two forces were qualified to provoke him. It seems that they don't belong to these two parties. They seem to be a boy with no prestige at all. I'm afraid he wants to take advantage of the fame of our Golden Lion Pirates this time. Indigo replied. This kind of guy often appears, taking some of the small pirate groups under the three big pirates to make a move. Chapter 14 Kaido Gathering Forces. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 14 Kaido Gathering Forces. As this kind of annoying kid again. Forget it, let someone collect information about that guy, and then settle accounts with him. The matter with that guy Whitebeard is still unresolved. Golden Lion didn't say much. He has encountered this kind of little pirate who comes to find trouble from time to time. Usually, other people have wiped him out before he can make a move. He just had a little bit of fun and let it go, trying to save face. And most importantly, Now he has to focus on the conflict with Whitebeard. A week later. Dream Blue Waters. With a sloop in hand, Murphy soon stopped at a random nearby island. Of course, to be honest, he didn't expect to be able to find Kaido here 100%, after all, a week has passed, and Kaido is likely to leave for the next place. But if Kaido really stayed here, someone here should know some information about Kaido's whereabouts. And maybe Kaido still stayed near this sea area and did not leave. The gap between reality and imagination can only be felt after actually entering this sea. Without a strong intelligence system, it is almost impossible to find people in this endless sea. This is why Marine cannot respond to so many the reason for the effective control of the pirates. Advertisement. Thinking of the advent of the era of great pirates in the future, Murphy more or less understands why such a powerful Marine is a bit tired of coping, and even needs to set up 7 warlords of the sea to stabilize the situation in the sea. It seems that the nearby islands are basically Whitebeard's territory. If I were Kaido, I would still choose this place. Thinking of this, Murphy turned his attention to the island under his feet. Although there are many sea areas in New World, there are also many islands and residents on the islands. However, most of them are ordinary people with no self-protection ability, and can only rely on the protection of some powerful forces. In addition to Marine, this sea has a strong force, and the only one that is not so harsh is the Whitebeard pirates. At this time, Kaido has not yet been able to directly challenge Whitebeard's level of ability, and he probably will not do so. Although Kaido looks like a reckless man, in fact he is not. Although it looks like he is not very smart on the surface, in fact Kaido is very scheming, very far-sighted and knows how to find the enemy. Weakness. Walk the streets here. Have you heard? It seems that another pirate ship docked yesterday. I don't know what will happen. I heard that these pirate groups are under Kaido's subordinates. There are already 4 pirate ships that have approached these days. What this big pirate wants to do is out of our control, if only we could accept Whitebeard's protection like everyone else. Don't even think about it. We have a small island with a population but no population, no characteristics, and no resources at all, and there is no point in sheltering it. Advertisement. For this island without anyone's shelter, the residents here really can only be slaughtered. Even if the Kaido of the Beasts had a massacre here, killing everyone on the island, I am afraid no one would say anything. Interesting. Did the Kaido of the Beasts gather their forces here? Could it be that they plan to attack Whitebeard's territory? After hearing the words of the residents on the island, Murphy slightly raised the corner of his mouth, thinking curiously. At this time, Kaido is not that invincible monster. Facing the 3 big pirates who are in their prime, they may not be able to handle a few tricks. Take Whitebeard as an example, I am afraid that Kaido's half-life can be killed with one fist. To be honest, Murphy didn't quite believe that guy would lay hands on Whitebeard's territory either. Forget it. All in all, Kaido of the Beasts is easy to deal with on this island, and his followers are probably not to be feared. Murphy said with a light smile. At this time, Kaido's strength is not too strong, and the pirates who follow him are not very good either. A clearing in the forest. Here the Kaido of the Beasts pirate group and the 3 pirate groups under its command gather here. Nearly 400 pirates are drinking here, and the lively atmosphere is permeating the 4 directions. The one in the center is slender, with black hair shawl, a pair of long horns like horns of a horned dragon, a long beard like a dragon's beard on his mouth, and a dragon scale tattoo on his left arm. The upper body is naked, a purple jacket is hung around the waist, and 2 gold chains are hung from the bottom of the jacket. The guy in leather pants is sitting in the middle. Advertisement. That's right, this person is the Kaido of the Beasts in his youth. Although he is still very young, his aura is already quite extraordinary. Immediately below the Kaido of the Beasts are 3 extremely stout men, and their aura is also quite extraordinary. The bounty may at least exceed the level of 70 million or more. And these people are all of the same zone demon fruit power, and it is precisely because of this that Kaido of the Beasts let them join him. Boss Kaido, are we really going to attack Whitebeard's territory? Guys of that level are not something we can afford. The speaker is Bear Green, the captain of the Bear Pirates. As he said, they still don't have the strength to collide with Whitebeard's level. If we wait 20 years, Kaido of the Beasts might still have a chance to reach its peak. The reason why he turned to Kaido is because of Kaido's potential. Although he is only in his 20s, Kaido already has a bounty of 240 million. If there is no accident with this potential, Kaido will be the overlord in the next era. But that is also a matter of the next era. In this era, the sharpness of the 3 big pirates is too dazzling. The Whitebeard guy has no time to deal with such a small place recently. Recently, the Golden Lion and Whitebeard have a lot of friction. Even Whitebeard can't spare the energy to deal with us. Chapter 15. Reiatsu suppresses the audience. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 15 suppresses Reiatsu. At this time, Kaido was not drunk yet, and spoke very seriously. Being targeted by Golden Lion, who is also one of the three great pirates, Whitebeard may not be able to get away for a long time. This time is the best time for him to grab the territory. Of course, Kaido of the Beasts will not do too much, lest the Whitebeard pirates retaliate in the future. He just intends to seize one of the richest islands here. As that's so, Whitebeard and the Golden Lion are about to go to war, but what a coincidence, you're going to mess with Whitebeard, and I'm already messing with the Golden Lion. At this moment, Murphy had walked tens of meters in front of Kaido of the Beasts without knowing when, looked at the guy with an unusually huge body in front of him, and said with a sunny face. Who is it? Sensing someone suddenly barging in, the captains of the three affiliated pirate groups in front of Kaido stood up at the same time, glaring at Murphy's direction. But at the same time, a few people were still a little shocked. They have been in New World for so long, and they are all masters of two-color hockey, and many of their cadres have also mastered two-color hockey. But no one noticed that Murphy had come so close to them. But they weren't too worried, because there was only one person in Murphy, and there were nearly 400 people here in total, so it was very easy to deal with one person. As long as the opponent is not a monster-level guy like Marine Admiral, relying on the number advantage, they will not be afraid of each other. It seems that you are very confident about the number of people. Looking at the relaxed faces of these people, Murphy smiled very casually. Advertisement. What an unpleasant tone. A good guy like you can't survive in New World. Do you want to hang out with me? After hearing Murphy's tone, the nearest alcoholic shook his head, moved closer to Murphy. As if Murphy didn't see the other party at all, he still said to himself, the number of people is useless in many cases. Hearing this, Kaido of the Beast sitting in the center suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. That's right, the number of people is meaningless in many cases, especially some miscellaneous fish. As far as Kaido is concerned, as long as he releases his Conqueror's Haki with all his strength, at least 1/3 of the people present will fall down directly. Although he is very young and his strength is not strong, Conqueror's Haki has little to do with strength, basically it is a person's innate strength. As far as the single-round Conqueror's Haki is concerned, his Conqueror's Haki is also ranked in the top 10 in the entire New World, and Kaido also knows other guys who are stronger than him, and Murphy in front of him is definitely not included. Boy, are you here to find fault? Do you think our Kaido of the Beast's pirate group is empty? Hearing Murphy's somewhat unfriendly tone, the gang of pirates gathered around, his complexion also gradually became more ferocious. How could someone in New World not even know about Conqueror's Haki? But many of them have experienced many battles, so they can't even bear a little bit of Conqueror's Haki. Even the Conqueror's Haki of the three great pirates, there are quite a few people here who can bear it. It's just mastering Conqueror's Haki. We haven't seen users of Conqueror's Haki in New World. If you have the guts, try to stun us. Advertisement. More and more members of the Kaido of the Beasts came up with unfriendly faces. Conqueror's Haki. Why bother to deal with you? Saying this, Murphy shook his head slightly, and said with a relaxed expression, just use Reiatsu to defeat you directly. Boom. An unbelievably large Reiatsu crashed down. Like a heavy rain, it was almost visible to the naked eye and exerted an extremely heavy pressure on this area. Bang bang bang. In just a split second, starting with the gang of pirates surrounding Murphy, everyone fell down in unison. Including their so-called combat members and ordinary cadres, at this moment, even thinking was directly deprived. With a blank mind, I can't think about everything, I can only feel the roar in my ears, and my consciousness seems to be separated from my body. Not to mention these people, even the captains of the three pirates under Kaido, felt tremendous pressure under the powerful Reiatsu, and couldn't even keep standing. Interesting, didn't you kneel down directly? It seems that people who have experienced in New World are better than Sakazuki Pelusolino at this time. Seeing the three pirate captains who still didn't kneel down, Murphy slightly raised the corner of his mouth. Advertisement. After all, they are the ones who have learned hockey, and at this time, Sakazuki and Pelusolino don't even know hockey, so their resistance is naturally not at the same level. What exactly is this? Conquerors. Impossible, even a conquerors of Whitebeard's level can't do this. What kind of power is this? I can't even stand up. The captains of the three pirate groups panicked and tried their best to resist the pressure without kneeling down. But behind them all seemed to be held by an invisible big hand, wanting to press them down directly. Only Kaido, who was sitting in the middle, looked normal, faintly exuding a Conqueror's Haki used to resist Murphy's Reiatsu. But it seems that just this is not enough to make you surrender. But there is only one opponent I need, so. After finishing speaking, the Reiatsu that erupted from Murphy doubled directly. This time, all of them, including the three captains, were directly lying on the ground, as if they were bearing tens of thousands of times the gravity, and they couldn't even move a single finger. Chapter 16 Empty-Handed Mace. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 16. And the other weak pirates lost their heartbeats on the spot. At this moment, Kaido of the Beast stood up step by step from the center position, condescendingly, and asked with cold eyes, "Boy, do you want to join my pirate team? I will give you the position of deputy of Beast's pirates. Gone." A solicitation. Murphy chuckled slightly, the corners of his mouth curled up. To be honest, what Kaido of the Beast said surprised him a bit. Facing himself, the enemy who killed nearly 400 of his subordinates, Kaido of the Beast's first thought was to recruit. Among other things, looking at the courage of Kaido of the Beasts, there are probably few people who can match it. It is no wonder that his pirate group can develop to that point. For talent, Kaido of the Beast's first thought is still recruiting. Aren't you afraid that the captains of the 3 pirate groups under your command will not be convinced when recruiting me? Reiatsu just took the lives of all their subordinates. It doesn't matter if you don't want that kind of waste. If you join my pirate group, then this matter will be cancelled. Kaido of the Beast said indifferently. A strong man who can kill more than 400 pirates just by his aura and the loyalty of this bunch of rubbish, everyone will make the right choice. You are quite interesting. Hearing Kaido's answer, Murphy smiled without surprise. Kaido of the Beasts is indeed such a ruthless person. So, advertisement. However, I reject your proposal. Immediately, Murphy slowly raised his hand, and the corner of his mouth moved slightly, one of Hado Chong. A white shock wave shot out from the fingertips and shot directly in the direction of Kaido of the Beasts. Boom. Kaido didn't have time to react at all, his whole body turned into a purple light, and flew out instantly. Boom. With a loud roar, a towering giant tree behind Kaido was directly broken, leaving a long trace on the ground. And Kaido's eyes also changed from disdain at the beginning to pity and finally anger. Although it is only a low-level Kido, the power released by the same Kido in the hands of different people is completely different, and among them, the size of the Reiatsu plays a decisive role. And the Aizen Reiatsu that Murphy inherited as the scariest Reiatsu in Soul Society, coupled with his current strength, a simple Kido directly knocked Kaido out. The strange ability, as well as the coercion just now, it is obviously not that powerful. It seems that this is your devil fruit ability. Click. A crisp sound came from a distance, and Kaido stretched out his hand directly, crushing the huge tree, and the cracks spread out from the palm like a spider web. Boom. Next second, the gigantic giant tree was uprooted by Kaido and thrown directly in Murphy's direction. Advertisement. The extremely strong wind combined with the huge trees looks very intimidating, hitting here like a wave. Just using brute force to pick up such a huge tree and throw it out directly, one can imagine how terrifying Kaido's power is. It's really a fighting style suitable for reckless people. Murphy commented lightly, and a Shunko directly left Kaido's attack range. Even in the face of such a huge attack, Murphy's expression did not change the slightest. Go to hell. The next moment, Kaido's figure had already rushed in front of Murphy, and the mace in his hand was directly blasted towards Murphy's head. The huge mace covered a thick layer of armament hockey, as if it could destroy everything. Just now, I was still enthusiastically trying to get me to join, but now it has become like this. It should be said that it is you. Seeing Kaido go crazy, Murphy smiled and said, with such fickleness, it's no wonder others think Kaido is a lunatic. However, facing this terrifying mace, Murphy stretched out his hand directly, and directly caught the attack that could destroy everything with his palm. What? Kaido's eyes widened, looking at Murphy in disbelief. How is it possible, even without using armament hockey, he directly caught the boss's full blow with his hands? Seeing that Murphy directly caught Kaido's attack with his hands, the captains of the 3 pirate groups couldn't believe it. Although Kaido is a moody lunatic, they still recognize Kaido in terms of strength. Not to mention catching with bare hands, even if they use weapons and attach hockey, they can't catch Kaido's blow so easily. Advertisement. The so-called armament hockey is just equivalent to an invisible armor. As long as you can control Reiatsu in detail, you can also do the same thing. Hado's 11. Thunderbolt. A powerful thunderbolt blasted towards Kaido's arm along the direction of the mace. What? Seeing the flash of thunder, Kaido immediately dropped the mace in his hand, but even so, he was still a beat behind. The powerful thunder blasted directly on Kaido's palm. Looking at Kaido who jumped away, Murphy said calmly, have you started to fear me so soon? If you want to kill me, then you should get close to me. Hearing this, Kaido's face became more and more ugly, especially when he looked at his right hand that was still bleeding. He dared not speak. Paramesh's devil fruit. One strange ability after another. By now, Kaido has thoroughly discovered the problem. Murphy obviously didn't look like Garp's kind of physical master. Catching his full blow with bare hands felt a bit unrealistic no matter how you thought about it. Whether it's the coercion just now, the full blow that caught him, and the attack method used, it seems that they are all of the same type. Do you think the enemy would be so idiotic as to take the initiative to tell you about your abilities? Chapter 17 Rapid Strength Improvement. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 17 Rapid Strength Improvement. Murphy chuckled, slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto in his hand, and walked slowly towards Kaido. Seeing Murphy approaching constantly, Kaido only felt chills in his heart. But seeing Murphy approaching step by step, coupled with Murphy's provocative words just now, he felt that it was too embarrassing to just retreat like this. Anyway, he is also a well-known big pirate in the sea now. If someone scares him, wouldn't it be a joke to spread the word? Originally thought that the other party was not well-known, just a rookie with good strength, but he didn't expect to be such a master who could almost crush him. Going solo into their beasts pirates, if it had been done by anyone without a name, the consequences would be obvious. But, although the strength displayed by Murphy is not at the top level in the world, it has absolute suppressive power against ordinary pirates and even the captain of his pirate group. Such terrifying strength made the concept of numbers completely useless in front of him. What on earth do you come to find as Kaido of the Beast's pirates? Kaido glared at Murphy and asked coldly. Of course I get what I need. Murphy smiled. His purpose of coming is naturally very simple, that is to fight Kaido of the Beasts. As for the other miscellaneous fish, he didn't even want to look at them, they just died when they died. Advertisement. Anyway, that kind of guy who is not important at all can't provide him with the experience of unlocking the system template. And these words are not at all like what you should say as a fighting madman. Murphy shook his head. It seems that the current Kaido is not the same as the future fighting mad guy. Of course, maybe in the future Kaido will be called suicidal maniac or fighting maniac simply because Kaido was too strong at that time, no one could kill him, and Kaido did this in order to show his strength. After speaking, Murphy's figure moves. Suddenly disappeared from the spot. Varied. Kaido's face changed drastically. Just now his observation haki didn't let up in the slightest, and he kept staring at Murphy, but he couldn't catch the slightest trace when the other party disappeared just now. Even the pace of Marine 6 styles, he can capture. That said, Murphy's movement was a peculiar kind of footwork that he had never seen before. And the speed and concealment are unimaginable. Don't worry, I don't have much interest in your life for the time being. You are too weak now. The next moment, Murphy's voice suddenly sounded in front of Kaido. And the Zanpakuto in his hand was also raised high, and swung down from top to bottom, aiming directly at the chest of Kaido of the Beasts. How is this possible? Kaido's pupils constricted sharply. He didn't expect Murphy to suddenly appear in front of him at all. He couldn't detect it at such a close distance, and he didn't react until the other party took the initiative to speak. Watching the swung Zanpakuto, Kaido felt rather bad. But, damn it, it's too late. Advertisement. At such a close distance, with Murphy showing no mercy, Kaido has no possibility of escape. Puff. In an instant, a thick line of blood was thrown out, and Zanpakuto tore Kaido's chest mercilessly. However, although this degree of injury is very painful for Kaido, it is not fatal for the time being. Kaido's dark face instantly turned pale, and he looked at the huge scar on his chest with a somewhat ferocious expression. Blood dripping, flesh and blood spattering. The muscles all over his body were twitching non-stop. Injured. Kaido of the Beasts can't remember when he was injured last time, but what is certain is that it was definitely a long time ago, and the scars are definitely not as scary as this time. Open black lens bracket defeat the future 4 Emperors Kaido of the Beasts. The template has been unlocked to 6.62% close black lens bracket. Hearing the system's notification tone, a golden light flashed in Murphy's eyes. Immediately afterwards, huge power swept into his body. A warm current began to wash every corner of Murphy's body directly. This time, the unlocking of the system template directly brought him a big wave of strength enhancement. It directly increased from 4.16% to 6.62% in an instant. Reiatsu has increased by half of the original amount. The feeling that the strength of the whole body is improving is difficult for ordinary people to understand. Now I can use Kido below size 50 without any scruples. After a little perception of his own situation, Murphy has a rough idea of how many Kido he can use. However, to Murphy's surprise, he defeated Sakazuki Pelusolino only to obtain a template unlock of about 0.8. But defeating Kaido actually directly increased from 4.16% to 6.62%. Advertisement. In terms of his improvement, this is not a small gap, but a huge leap. Regarding this point, Murphy himself can clearly feel that he has become much stronger. Open black lens bracket ding. Because the strength of Kaido is far stronger than that of Sakazuki and Pelusolino during the elite camp. Close black lens bracket. The system quickly answered Murphy's doubts. Although the strength is the same, Sakazuki and Pelusolino have not even learned haki at this stage, so the strength is naturally not at the same level at all. So the experience provided is naturally not a level. After the two of them have worked hard in the elite camp for a year and went to sea to practice, it is estimated that they will soon be able to catch up with Kaido's level of strength. As for Kaido of the Beasts, Murphy can't kill him now. After all, Kaido of the Beasts gives very little experience now. Presumably when Kaido's strength really reaches its peak, then defeating Kaido will really gain a lot of experience. She is not interested in maintaining world peace or anything like that. Since Kaido of the Beasts is still useful to him, he won't kill it. As for whether Kaido will pose a threat to him in the future, Murphy is not worried at all. Now he's close to crushing Kaido of the Beasts. Chapter 18 already succeeded. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 18 has been done. And with the blessing of the system, he can easily crush Kaido in the future, even easier than it is now. And in terms of strength, there is a completely different gap between the strength of the One Piece world and the Shinigami world. No matter how powerful the people in Pirate World are, they are just ordinary people after all. They will live, grow old, get sick and die, but Shinigami has no life limit at all. Thinking of this, Murphy also took back the Zanpakuto in his hand. Wait, what do you mean? Seeing that Murphy was about to leave, Kaido stared at Murphy with an extremely angry voice. After killing all his people, he was left alone, and he was very merciful, planning to let him go. Although Kaido doesn't care about the lives of those subordinates, Murphy's approach is undoubtedly quite insulting. Didn't I already say that before? I'll leave when I get what I want, and now I've got what I want. Murphy smiled, the reflective square glasses shining brightly, in cooperation with the slightly raised corners of the mouth. If it were normal, it would definitely be the appearance of countless young girls. Advertisement. But from Kaido's point of view, Murphy's smile is like a cunning fox. Of course, I spare your life in the hope that you will become stronger and more worthy of defeating me. I hope you will not let me down. After saying this, Murphy left straight away. As he said, after he got what he wanted, he would naturally leave. And all he wanted was the experience that Kaido of the Beasts could bring. And everyone's experience value refresh is 20 years, that is to say, after 20 years, if he defeats Kaido again, he can gain experience from him again. During this period, he could only find other important figures to slowly improve his strength. And the next time is very simple. Even Kaido of the Beasts has been defeated by him, and there are only a few people left who can threaten his combat power in this sea, not to mention that he has become stronger after defeating Kaido. Aizen's huge and incredible Reiatsu is much better than Conqueror's Haki. Just a little release can explode the bodies of those pirates who are below the tens of millions. And if he released it with all his strength, even a pirate with a bounty of 100 million would be unable to move, and a pirate with a reward of about 200 million was just at the level of letting him slaughter him. The pirates who can bring him a little pressure now have a reward of at least 500 million or more. In other words, they are big pirates around the level of World Destroyer. Although there are many pirates in New World with more than 100 million, those with more than 500 million are very rare. Advertisement. In just 3 months, Murphy has been rumored in the New World. However, almost all the pirates who met him were wiped out except Kaido, so although there are some rumors, they are not really famous. In addition, Murphy has never done anything that pirates would do, such as capturing the Marine branch or attacking the franchised countries of the world government, so his information has always been a mystery. Some people say he is a pirate, some say he is a bounty hunter, and some say he is a folk hermit, but no one guesses that he is a Marine. Because Marine basically acts together, and Murphy has always been alone. I'm afraid this is also where Garp's good intentions lie. If these big pirates in New World know his identity as Marine, I'm afraid he will not be able to sail freely in this sea for a long time. Naturally, this doesn't do Murphy any good. And after 3 months of killing, his template unlocking level has hardly changed much, because all the pirates who died in his hands were pirates that did not appear in the original book. At the same time, somewhere in the New World, I saw a medium-sized pirate ship drifting alone in this place. According to common sense, small pirate groups of this size can hardly survive for long in New World, and most of them will be dealt with at the gate of New World. Advertisement. However, the ship has already sailed to the middle of New World, and the entire hull does not seem to have suffered much damage, just like a new ship. If this unreasonable scene is seen by others, I am afraid that there will be some doubts, but if you look at the pirate flag hanging on this ship, there will be no doubts. That's right, they are the Roger pirates who are quite famous all over the world. One of the 3 great pirates today, the pirate group led by the future One Piece King Roger. Roger, have you heard? Recently, a kid turned the whole New World upside down. He killed countless pirates in 3 months, including the Golden Lion and Whitebeard's subordinates. To be honest, I also kind of admire the newcomers now, they have provoked so many New World forces all of a sudden, and even provoked that monster Whitebeard. Rayleigh paused, and then said with some teasing tone, after all, we also have an indissoluble feud with that guy for killing Whitebeard's son. Ha ha. Unlike Golden Lion, if Golden Lion kills to protect his face, then Whitebeard simply wants to protect his family. But whoever dares to touch his family, Whitebeard will make it have no place in this sea. And their Roger pirates and the Whitebeard pirates will inevitably have some friction, and the friction will inevitably kill people, so they naturally have enmity with Whitebeard. Even though Roger and Whitebeard are, in a sense, good friends. Chapter 19 Encountering the Roger Pirates. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 19 Encountering the Roger Pirates. The guy who made a fuss in New World. Roger replied without raising his head. No one knows the identity of that guy until now, but it shouldn't be the bounty hunter. The pirates he killed are basically they were all killed casually, and there was no intention of exchanging them for money. Although Roger looks like a big idiot, he has also heard about Murphy. And that guy doesn't look like a pirate at all. I heard that in the places he passed by, many residents have received his favor. Rayleigh stepped forward, leaning on the railing beside the boat, and said a little puzzled. He doesn't care about money, but also gives people favors, which is quite like the style of some folk masters. I'd love to meet that guy if possible, Roger smiled. Oh, it looks like you are very interested in him. Rayleigh asked a little strangely. Roger replied solemnly. Indeed, although I haven't met him before, he seems to be a very nice guy. If possible, I would like to have a few drinks with him. Hearing Roger's words, Rayleigh also had question marks on his head. How does this have to do with personality? Obviously, the two sides have not even met face to face. And from outside rumors, the other party is also a vicious and brutal person, and I don't know how Roger judged that the other party is a very good guy. Advertisement. And Roger seemed to sense Rayleigh's puzzled look. I don't believe in rumors. I only believe in my own judgment. New World, a Marine base. Naval headquarters is also very nervous at this time due to the upcoming clash between Whitebeard and Golden Lion. The highest officer sent here is Sengoku, the only remaining Marine Admiral Buddha in Marine. As for Zephyr, he manages the elite battalion while guarding naval headquarters. Looking at the sea in front of him, Sengoku said rather unhappily, that bastard, Garp, actually threw that kid into New World to sail casually at this time. It is hard to imagine how chaotic the New World is now, but it was at this time that he realized that it was a mistake to let Garp take Murphy to the New World trial. It happened to coincide with the conflict between Whitebeard and Golden Lion, and Murphy was left alone in New World. If an accident happened, it would be too late for them to rescue him. And this time Sengoku came here to observe the battle between the two sides, and also had an important task to find Murphy and ensure Murphy's safety. Even if you want to train in New World, you have to wait for New World to become relatively peaceful. At this time, the New World was undercurrents, and only those with Marine Admiral strength were qualified to walk freely in this sea alone. Even those monsters with a bounty of more than 500 million have seen a lot less activity recently. Advertisement. This is the deterrent power of the three big pirates, and the mere confrontation has caused turmoil in the entire New World. No one wants to be involved by these two parties, but naval headquarters will not choose to fight against the two parties at this time. After all, as long as Marine forces them over, then Golden Lion and Whitebeard will definitely stop and will not let Marine sitting on the fisherman's profit. Facing the two sides at once, Marine will also be severely damaged. Marshal Sengoku, you have mastered the sea area where the Whitebeard pirates and the Golden Lion pirates meet. Do you want to dispatch? At this moment, a Marine soldier walked up to Sengoku and asked Sengoku. Sengoku took the information casually, and after confirming that there was no doubt, he said to the Marine soldiers below, notice, set off immediately, target the South German Sea. Of course, there's no way for Murphy to know what's going on at naval headquarters. He couldn't even find out about Garp's whereabouts. Sometimes he wondered if Garp had lost track of him. After all, the waters of the New World were extremely complicated, and such a situation was possible. However, Murphy didn't really care about it. It's not so easy to meet the three big pirates. In addition, his identity as a Marine has not been exposed, so he is still very free in this sea. Of course, there are also troubles. That is, the unlocking level of the Aizen template is too slow. If he does not defeat those famous and important characters, he can hardly get much experience points. The so many pirates killed here in 3 months only provided him with less than 1% of the level. Advertisement. Of course, although the progress is slow, it is much faster than the speed of unlocking 1% after more than 10 years of cultivation. After all, as the strength becomes stronger, the defeated enemies will become stronger and stronger, and the experience provided will also increase accordingly. Of course, Murphy was not idle during the boring time, but kept practicing the abandoned chant about Kido. Although it is said that before using Hogyoku, Aizen was able to abandon the chants and use Kido with the number 90 to directly defeat the captain of Gote 13, but this is not because his Kido is extraordinarily powerful, but because Aizen's Reiatsu is too terrifying. If you want to talk about the proficiency of Kido, Aizen is indeed not as good as those big Kido masters in the Kido congregation. Even Aizen himself was somewhat dissatisfied with the Kido's power after he gave up the chant. And now Murphy is constantly making up for this loophole, because this also involves an important issue in the future. To be precise, it is a problem after obtaining Hogyoku. That one over there is. While Murphy was bored sailing, suddenly he saw a ship heading towards his direction. This is really interesting. I didn't expect to meet the Roger pirates in this kind of place. Murphy was also a little surprised. Chapter 20 Embarkation. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 20 Embarkation. A sloop sailed in the territory of the New World. I didn't expect to be talking about it just now, but now I ran into it directly. Is it luck or coincidence? Roger, who was standing at the bow, looked at the sloop passing by and raised the corners of his mouth. That's right, the Murphy and Roger pirates are about to meet here. I didn't expect to meet the Roger pirates here. It's really interesting. Do you want to sit up? Seeing that the Roger pirates were coming, Murphy couldn't help but smiled wryly. But luckily it's the Roger pirates. The Roger pirates have no affiliated pirates, and they do not occupy any territory. Although Murphy killed many pirates in New World, it is certain that he did not mess with the Roger pirates' relationship. But, all these judgments are based on impressions, and this is a real world. Besides, in Murphy's memory, Roger seems to have conquered a country directly because of someone's insulting words. Advertisement. A pirate is a pirate after all, and no one can predict what will happen. Hey, is that the guy who's been famous in New World lately? At this time, a kid from the Roger pirates also ran to the front, excited to see the approaching sloop. Don't get too excited, an intern like you will die in an instant. Shanks. Seeing Shanks walk out, Rayleigh also walked to his side, lest Shanks will have an accident later. Although it is only a trainee crew member, everyone has seen Shanks' talent, and Rayleigh naturally does not want Shanks to die prematurely. At this time, Jabba, another combat member on Roger's ship, also came over and said with a smile, "Don't worry, the other party is not a fool, how could he take the initiative to provoke our Roger pirates?" Indeed, but what to do is up to Roger. I don't know who said that suddenly in the crowd, and then everyone turned their attention to Roger. As their crew members, they just need to follow the captain's arrangement. If Roger wants to fight, then they fight. If Roger wants to talk to each other, then they invite each other to board the ship. If they don't see it, then just pass by like this. Ha ha ha, I really want to say hello to this guy too. Let's go and meet him. Seeing that everyone looked over, Roger laughed a few times and replied heartily. For Roger, the most important thing for him is his brother, just like Whitebeard's most important thing is his son. As long as this is not touched, they will not show too much malice towards others. If that's the case, let's go straight up. Rayleigh didn't say much, and after hearing Roger's order, he directly let people control the boat to go up to Murphy's sloop. Does it mean to invite to board the boat? Seeing the other party's actions, Murphy also knew what it meant. Advertisement. Seeing Roger getting closer and closer to his side on the bow, Murphy didn't panic at all. Since the other party invited them to board the ship, it meant that there was no danger. And he also took the time to glance at the people on Roger's ship. I have to say that the number of people in Roger's pirate group is really pitiful. There are probably less than 100 people on a medium-sized pirate ship. But almost everyone above exudes a very extraordinary aura, at least they are guys with a bounty of more than 50 million. Of course, those intern crew members are naturally not counted. Even the weakest crew member has a bounty of more than 50 million. One can imagine how strong the Roger pirates are. Although the bounty of 50 million seems a little small, it is also a dominant pirate group in the first half of the Grand Line. Captain. Even in the New World, they are also the core cadres of some big pirates, but on Roger's ship, such people are actually the lowest level of trash. The combat members of the Roger pirates are basically monsters with a strength of over 200 million, and the core cadres have a level of 300 to 400 million. Boom. The two ships were directly next to each other. Murphy didn't think too much, and jumped directly onto the ship of the Roger pirates. A ship elf. Murphy pushed his glasses back, glanced at an unnoticed part of the boat, and smiled meaningfully. As soon as he boarded the ship, Murphy felt the existence of the ship spirit on the ship. After all, he is a Shinigami, and it is very easy to see this little guy with a spirit body. Oh, did that guy notice it too? Seeing the direction Murphy was looking in, Roger's eyes suddenly lit up. Advertisement. Roger, who has the ability to listen to the voice of all things, naturally knows that there are ship spirits on board. Originally thought that he was the only one who knew about this matter, but Murphy found the ship spirit just after boarding the ship, which made Roger even more curious about Murphy's identity. Especially seeing that Murphy is an approachable, gentle and perfect young man, Roger can't help but subconsciously develop a good impression of Murphy. But this is normal, Aizen can be the captain of the Soul Society and has not been discovered for hundreds of years. It would be really strange for Roger to find out that something is wrong. While Roger was looking at Murphy, Murphy was also looking at the man in front of him who started everything. One Piece Roger. No way, this person's reputation is too loud. This man who started an era with his life is no exaggeration to say that he is the pioneer of the future. He is also the goal pursued by all pirates and a symbol of the pirate world. It is very difficult for one person to be able to achieve this level, sacrificing oneself to achieve an era. At least, Murphy wouldn't do that kind of thing, and couldn't possibly do it. Chapter 21 Shock. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 21 Shocking. For such a person, it is indeed worthy of respect. But, it seemed to him equally stupid. Of course, what choice Roger makes has nothing to do with Murphy. He also has no interest in world peace, historical truth, celestial dragons and world government rule. For him, everything here is just a backing board for gaining strength, and if he doesn't need it, he can just throw it away at any time. Of course, Roger is still very important to him, at least whether it is strength or fame. Roger can be said to have reached the peak. If he can be defeated, the benefits will naturally be inexhaustible. As for things like changing the times, wouldn't it be enough as long as there is enough power? Everything we do together is only for ourselves to become stronger, to move towards a further level, that's all. That's how Murphy works, and that's how Aizen works. To break through stronger, to move towards a stronger realm, not to be constrained by anyone and not to obey anyone's orders. Advertisement. Surrounded by the Roger pirates, Murphy raised his head with a calm expression, glanced around, and then asked Roger, "Is this the hospitality of the Roger pirates? Staring at the guests like this, it doesn't look too good." Murphy's words immediately plunged the audience into silence. They are all a bunch of big rough pirates. There is no such thing as etiquette. They just simply feel that the young man in front of them seems too arrogant and calm. He obviously boarded the ship of their Roger pirates, and was surrounded by so many people, yet he didn't show any cowardly expression. You must know that they are one of the three big pirates. Don't those little pirates usually look trembling when they see them? Forget it, but it's true. After all, I just got on someone else's boat. It's really difficult to talk without a little shock. Looking around, Murphy knew that it was unlikely that he wanted to continue the conversation like this. The eyes of Rayleigh in front suddenly became sharp, and an ominous premonition suddenly appeared, and then he seemed to have noticed something, and rushed to the side of the red hair. Boom. In Murphy's body, a stream of Reiatsu suddenly throbbed. It radiated directly to the surroundings, the moment Reiatsu burst out. Boom. The incomparably powerful momentum rose directly, sweeping across the entire deck like a raging river. For a moment, the blue air current visible to the naked eye centered on Murphy and swept out in all directions, covering every corner of the entire ship in just a split second. Advertisement. Every inch of the ground was covered in Murphy's thick blue Reiatsu. Dozens of rewards around him were not low, and the pirates, who were still holding a theater in their arms, stopped immediately. Even those who offered a bounty of over 100 million were not spared. That's why Murphy kept his hand, otherwise, many people here would be directly crushed by his terrifying Reiatsu and exploded. This is one of the biggest differences between Reiatsu and Conqueror's Haki. Reiatsu can actually cause more damage, while Conqueror's Haki just stun people. It seems like we can chat quietly for a while now. The atmosphere suddenly became tense. Among the Roger pirates, less than half of them were able to stand and move freely, while the others were all suppressed by Murphy with Reiatsu. Among them, those who can move freely include Rayleigh and Roger, who used Haki to block and help protect part of the crew, such as Shanks and Buggy. And this whole process is just a matter of a moment. One of the three big pirates, the Roger pirates, was easily swept away by more than half. Although it is said that the people who stay are very strong, it is shocking enough. But even so, Roger was not angry, but asked curiously, "Is it not Conqueror's Haki, but relying on your own courage? Or relying on the help of Devil Fruit's ability?" Although it was said that it was Murphy who released the aura on his own initiative, but the opponent didn't even move his hand, and the aura alone suppressed him, so they had nothing to say. To be precise, it's something called Reiatsu, but I'm the only one in this world who can use it. Aizen smiled immediately, and had no intention of hiding it. Even if you tell each other the word Reiatsu, it is impossible for them to understand what it is. Advertisement. The so-called Reiatsu is just a synonym for this force. As long as they want to, they can even give this force countless names. So Murphy had no reason to hide it. Roger replied curiously, "Are you the only one who can use it? That's really strange. I feel that yours is stronger than my Conqueror's Haki, and your strength is still far behind." For people whose strength is much worse than his own, Roger can naturally see the approximate level at a glance. Now Murphy's level is about 500 million. It is probably okay to deal with the cadres on his ship, but against him and Rayleigh, it's not far off. And, looking at the appearances of his cadres, although he did not completely lose their fighting power under Reiatsu's power, it can be seen from the eyes of a few of them, I am afraid that they have already developed a deep feeling for Murphy in their hearts. Sense of awe. If there is a real fight, I am afraid that 4 or 5 cadres may not necessarily be Murphy's opponent if they fight together. The only ones on this ship who can really defeat Murphy are Roger's right-hand man and Roger himself. Boy, what do you want to do here? Seeing how Roger and Murphy got along in harmony, Rayleigh couldn't hold back anymore. Although it was their own fault that their own crew couldn't bear Murphy's aura, Rayleigh was still somewhat uncomfortable. Chapter 22 Inquiring about Rayleigh's sword skills. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 22 Asking Rayleigh for sword skills. Although it's not very good to say this, it seems that you Roger pirates invited me to board the ship, right? I should be the one to ask this question, shouldn't I, Mr. Rayleigh? Facing Rayleigh's vigilant look, Murphy immediately showed a gentle smile, and directly looked into Rayleigh's sharp eyes, confident and firm, neither humble nor overbearing, with a strong aura of gentleness. Coupled with the bookish square frame glasses, the whole person looks very different. Forehead. Facing Murphy's confident and firm gentle eyes, Rayleigh suddenly realized that it was indeed his side who took the initiative to invite the other party on board. But, seeing the unreliable captain beside him, Rayleigh also sighed helplessly. However, if I have to say it, I have a purpose for coming here. At this moment, Murphy said suddenly. This made Rayleigh and Roger and the rest of the active crew members a little curious. I heard that Pluton Rayleigh not only has great attainments in physical arts and hockey, but is also a great swordsman. I would like to ask you about your sword skills. Murphy looked at Rayleigh ahead, a gleam in his eye. There is no doubt that the deputy of the One Piece in front of him is much stronger than himself, and it is impossible to beat him with only unlocking less than 10% of Aizen's strength. Advertisement. If you can't beat your opponent, you won't be able to gain experience points to unlock templates. But, after finally meeting a great swordsman, Murphy also wants to try one of Shinigami's basic abilities, Zanpakuto. That is the beheading technique. Although it is said that Aizen's slashing technique is shown very few times, each time it is quite amazing and fatal. Facing other captains and members of the Masked Legion with mercy, Aizen is easily and seriously injured. Even the third Espada Hurley Bell's steel skin, Aizen almost killed it with only 2 blows. It can be said that except for white hits, all of Aizen's performances are quite high. However, the opponents Murphy faced before were too weak. Basically, they used Reiatsu to suppress them a little and killed them directly, or they could not move and let others slaughter them. It is also quite difficult to find someone who can communicate in swordsmanship. Although the energy system in the Shinigami world is stronger than that of hockey, it is much ahead in the world of Teishu pirates. Especially the profound meaning of swordsmanship, which is similar to the realm of cutting steel, is quite wonderful. These are purely technical abilities. And Shinigami's slashing basically relies on the powerful Reiatsu to fight. If the two can be combined, the combination of skill and strength will not be a simple 1+1 level in the end. Oh, do you want to ask me about swordsmanship? Now Rayleigh is also interested, and he is still very interested in the exchange of swordsmanship. But I won't show mercy. If you want to discuss swordsmanship, we have some swordsmanship masters on board who are similar in strength to yours. Rayleigh reminded very kindly. Advertisement. Click. The sound of Zanpakuto being pulled out sounded. Since it is asking for advice, it is natural to ask the person who should ask for advice, and ask someone who is suitable to be a teacher. Hey, he's really a very likable guy. Hearing what Murphy said, Rayleigh snorted lightly. From his appearance to his temperament, he could feel that Murphy was a very likable existence. And the fact was true, even though Murphy was provoking him, he couldn't bear the slightest feeling of disgust. Instead, he wanted to teach the other party's swordsmanship seriously. Then I won't be polite. After saying that, Murphy suddenly disappeared in place. Zanpakuto in his hand was covered with a layer of blue Reiatsu and waved directly in Rayleigh's direction. Interesting. Seeing Murphy's movements, Rayleigh said softly, and then rushed forward with his sword in hand. At the same time, the sword in Rayleigh's hand is also covered with a layer of jet black armor, which is different from the ordinary armed color. Rayleigh's armament hockey seems to have a powerful coercion. Amazing armament hockey. Opposite Rayleigh, Murphy's brows couldn't help but frown. Although it is known that the other party is the deputy of One Piece in the future, this level of armament hockey is too scary. And, whether Rayleigh is using his full strength is still a big question. Years of Pluton. The strength is indeed somewhat terrifying. Don't be distracted. Rayleigh spoke. The next second, Rayleigh slammed backwards. Advertisement. Boom. The deck of the entire hull and even the ship itself began to shake. The powerful force formed by the reaction made Rayleigh's figure strike directly at Murphy like an eagle. The speed is so fast that he doesn't even have a chance to use Shunko to dodge. Without thinking too much, the extremely thick Reiatsu was all gathered on the Zanpakuto in his hand. Bang, bang, bang. A direct collision between armament hockey and Reiatsu, nothing technical, just a pure collision of power. Huh, is this the so-called Reiatsu? You can block my blow without hockey. Rayleigh was also a little surprised to see Murphy block his sword. Originally seeing Murphy directly raise the weapon in his hand and arrived without using hockey, he thought he would directly cut off Murphy's sword. But I didn't expect that it was covered with a layer of Reiatsu that couldn't be seen. My Zanpakuto will not be cut off easily. As if guessing what Rayleigh was thinking, Murphy slowly raised the corners of his mouth and replied with a smile. But seeing the traces of being pushed out under his feet, Murphy's heart sank. Although it is said that Zanpakuto is not easy to be broken, it is not impossible to be broken at all. If this continues, the Zanpakuto in his hand will eventually be broken. Chapter 23 Fighting Rayleigh. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 23 Fighting Rayleigh. As that's so. If that's the case, then I don't have to show mercy. Rayleigh smiled lightly, and swung the sharp sword in his hand again. Although the strength is much smaller than before, the speed is extremely fast, and the moves are fatal. But Murphy is not a vegetarian either. Although the slashing techniques in the Shinigami world are not studied as much as in the pirate world, after all, Aizen has hundreds of years of combat experience, so it is naturally not so easy to be fooled by Rayleigh's dazzling attacks. Breakthrough. Hey, is the fighting actually so rich? It's hard to imagine that you are a young man in his 20s. Rayleigh was also a little surprised to see his tricks being resolved one by Murphy. Swordsmanship is something that is easy for people to understand and see through each other. He can feel that although Murphy is far behind him in terms of skills and swordsmanship, he has exceptionally rich combat experience, no matter what he is thinking about. Whatever, Murphy can read directly and respond correctly. But at this time, Murphy didn't have time to think about Rayleigh's teasing words, but was constantly absorbing the skills in Rayleigh's swordsmanship. Bang bang bang. The blades collided, and Rayleigh gave Murphy the feeling of a mountain, which couldn't be pushed steadily, but kept pressing towards him. And the sword in his hand couldn't break through this high mountain no matter what, and he didn't even have the chance to counterattack. In the face of a master who is stronger than himself, he can be said to have no reservations. But at the same time, Murphy could also feel that his understanding of swordsmanship had begun to become more profound, and even the posture of waving Zanpakuto in his hand began to change subconsciously. Become more powerful, more dexterous, more changeable, and better able to grasp the enemy's flaws. This advertisement. Roger also noticed this change very quickly, but it was precisely because of this change that he felt such a shock. Could it be that in such a short period of time, he has already begun to understand my swordsmanship? And the level of comprehension is quite high. No wonder he is so powerful at such a young age, this guy is a real genius. Rayleigh couldn't help thinking about it. In just such a short time of fighting, Murphy has improved his swordplay from his swordplay and has slowly developed his own style. Moreover, the handling of many details and the understanding of swordsmanship have greatly improved. It's not that Rayleigh hasn't seen a genius before. There are too many people who can be called geniuses in this sea, but this is the first time he has seen a person who has reached this level of genius. Not only Rayleigh discovered this problem, Roger is also a great swordsman, so he can naturally find the gap. Amazing talent in swordsmanship. With this talent alone, I am afraid that he will have the ability to become the world's #1 swordsman or even the world's strongest swordsman in the future. Seeing the speed at which Murphy improved in this battle, even he had to admit that Murphy's talent for swordsmanship was above his own. And the gap is quite huge. Bang! The collision between the two sounded again. Huh. Huh. Heavy gasps sounded, and Murphy's brows and eyes revealed a look of exhaustion. Advertisement. Facing an opponent stronger than himself, it is indeed quite exhausting to resist. If it is a pure soul body, it is fine, but now his physical strength is not enough for him to overdraw so quickly to deal with the enemy. It seems that there is still a big gap. Seeing Rayleigh easily resisting himself, Murphy's eyes were fixed. Immediately afterwards, the terrifying Reiatsu all wrapped around the Zanpakuto in his hand. Through the battle just now, he can roughly feel the gap between his own sword skills and the sword skills he got from Aizen. Try this. Zanpakuto was lifted high, then fell with a crash. A slash like a crushed umbrella pierced the air and hit Rayleigh. The blue Reiatsu is fierce and intimidating, as if it can tear people's souls apart. What a terrifying breath. Feeling the breath that seemed to be able to tear apart the soul, Rayleigh also concentrated his attention and became serious. His intuition told him that if he took this move head-on, even if he used armament hockey to block the sword energy, he would probably be killed on the spot. The fear that comes from the soul will never lie. No way. Rayleigh dodged and sideways, dodging the sword. Boom. The berserk sword energy directly swept across the sea behind, but it didn't stir up even the slightest wave. But the next second, the scene in front of Rayleigh made him sweat. Advertisement. Under the sea, dozens of sea kings were powerlessly floating up, completely losing their vitality. However, there was not even a single scar on the bodies of those sea kings. Sure enough, my subconscious perception just now is not wrong. If I directly resist directly, then I will. Seeing this scene, Rayleigh was also a little startled. If he hadn't sensed the danger just now and chose to dodge instead of resisting the slash with his armed color, otherwise he might be the same as these sea kings. It's not an ordinary slash, but a slash of the soul. Although he was a little surprised, Rayleigh still felt the essence of this slash. On the surface it looked no different from an ordinary slash, but in fact it was a blow aimed directly at the soul. If the soul is not strong enough, no matter how terrible hockey is, it will be directly torn by this slash. And that level of soul slashing, probably no one in this world can withstand it. Mr. Rayleigh, thank you for your advice. At this time, Murphy also took back the Zanpakuto in his hand. Through the swordsmanship duel with Rayleigh, his swordsmanship growth can be said to be a qualitative leap. Chapter 24 The Dumbfounded Roger Pirates. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 24 The Dumb Roger Pirates. But although this slash sounds very powerful, it can directly tear the opponent's soul, but in fact it does not improve Murphy's overall strength too much. He is very clear from the beginning to the end that the strength of Aizen does not rely on these basic abilities to become stronger, but relies on the most basic but also the most direct Reiatsu strength. Whether it is Kido or Kyōka Suigetsu, it is all achieved by relying on Aizen's incredible Reiatsu. According to Murphy's estimate, Marine Admiral in the One Piece world is estimated to be at the same level as or stronger than the captains of Gote 13, while the captains with the highest strength in the 13th team are not inferior to Marine Admiral at all. And Aizen, who has not used Hogyoku, can already give up chanting and use Kido to easily kill the captain of Gote 13 in seconds. If it is completely chanting, it is even more unimaginable. As long as Aizen has the power of that period, I am afraid that Murphy can easily defeat the three admirals together. It adds up. If you want to improve your strength as soon as possible, you must first have the combat power of admiral's level. Only by defeating the three big pirates Pluton and others in a row can you quickly rise to that level. Murphy secretly thought. To be honest, almost all the famous guys in this period are admiral-level monsters. Although everyone has rich experience, if you want to get it, you must first let your strength reach this level. Evil King, Genzuki Hunter, Big Barrel, World Destroyer, Big Mom, Bullet, and Red Hair. These are all famous characters that Murphy can imagine now that he can possibly defeat, and most of them are guys who escaped from the Impel Down in the future. Advertisement. Besides these people, the simplest person is the Red Hair in front of him at this moment. As the future four emperors, the reputation of Red Hair is self-evident. But it is a pity that the Red Hair is still too weak at this time, and I am afraid that the experience that can be provided to him may be quite little. Moreover, the experience gained from a person will only be refreshed every 20 years. At this time, there are still 32 years before the start of the plot. It is more cost-effective to wait for another 10 years to make the Red Hair stronger before defeating him. As for the other people mentioned besides the Red Hair, as long as these people are cleaned up one by one, they should be able to defeat those monster-level guys by then. Captain Roger, there is a warship approaching us. The opponent is Garp. Just when they were still immersed in Murphy's swordsmanship and growing at an astonishing speed, there was a sudden noise from outside. I saw two cadres running over in a hurry from the side, shouting anxiously. What? Garp. Hearing this word, everyone on Roger's boat tensed up. Although Garp is just a vice admiral, its deterrent power is even more terrifying than that of Marine Admiral. Just one person chased their Roger pirates and fled around. This is Garp's deterrent power. Boom, boom, boom. In the distance, 7 or 8 shells suddenly flew from outside and bombarded the Roger pirates. Those were not ordinary cannonballs, but the cannonballs thrown by Garp with his hands, which were more than 10 times more powerful than cannons. Advertisement. Garp, that bastard. Seeing this signature bomb attack, Rayleigh's expression sank. Although many of them were able to stop the shells thrown by Garp, once a few hit the ship, it would be quite bad. Roger. Hand over the Murphy kid. Before Roger could speak, Garp had already started cursing. And from Garp's tone, Roger seemed to feel that the other party was quite angry. And it is true. Although it is said that the old guy Garp is quite unreliable and irresponsible to throw Murphy himself to New World to play by himself, but he is not completely unaware of Murphy's situation. Along the way, Garp used Marine's intelligence system to see if there were any dangerous people around, and at the same time followed Murphy's ship to sail behind. I thought there would be no accidents, but I didn't expect that Roger and Murphy would run into each other directly. Hearing this news, Garp was also taken aback. Although Murphy's current strength is no problem in most situations, the gap between the Admiral class and below is quite obvious. It can also be felt from the bounty that in the future, the bounty of the 4 Emperors level characters will basically be 4 or 5 billion monsters, and like Ka-er, it will only be more than 1 billion. Although the bounty does not fully reflect the strength, such a large gap is enough to explain everything. The strength gap between the Admiral level and the Admiral level is quite huge. Advertisement. That's why Garp didn't say a word and hurriedly let people sail at full speed to come here. If something happened to Murphy, going back to Zephyr Sengoku Kong would probably tear his bones apart. Especially Zephyr. It was hard because these monster boys in the elite camp diverted their attention from the grief of losing their wives and children. Garp couldn't help with Zephyr's incident last time. If something happened to Murphy in his hands at this time, then but I really have to blame myself for the rest of my life, and I have no face to face Zephyr. Murphy. Hearing Garp's eager voice, Rayleigh and Roger looked at each other puzzled. I thought Garp was here to trouble them, but it turned out not to be the case. It seems that I forgot to mention my identity. I am a student of the Marine Elite Camp. This time, I would like to thank Senior Rayleigh for his guidance. Seeing that Garp arrived, Murphy didn't need to hide his identity as Marine. Even if they tell the other party, the Roger pirates can't do anything about themselves, so it's better to show their identity directly and above board. Marine. Hearing Murphy's words, everyone on the Roger pirates looked at each other in blank dismay. Chapter 25. Back to the Marine branch. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 25. Back to the Marine branch. How dare a Marine come to their territory alone? And it's so blatant, doesn't it take Roger pirates too seriously? After Murphy's Reiatsu is gone, the people on Roger's pirate ship can also start to move freely. But they all stared dumbfounded at the scene of Murphy slowly leaving, the horror on their faces was undisguised. And when Murphy returned to his boat and sailed towards Garp, everyone came back to their senses. That kid is really Marine. And he sailed alone in New World for nearly 3 months. Among the crowd, Rayleigh slowly walked out, looking at Murphy with a strange expression on his face. After all, there are still more pirates in New World. Although Marine will sail here, many people go together to avoid endless sneak attacks by pirates. And Murphy, as a Marine, and just a Marine student, actually wandered in New World by himself. This is too exaggerated. It seems that Marine is very optimistic about that kid's future. He actually let Garp follow him to protect him at any time. But, thinking of the scene where Rayleigh and Murphy fought just now, Roger seemed to understand something. To be able to learn Rayleigh's swordsmanship in an instant, and to use it in practice so quickly, although there is still a big gap with Rayleigh, this talent is already shocking enough. If nothing else, Murphy must be Marine Admiral in the future, and maybe the strongest Marine Admiral in history. Advertisement. Coupled with that gentle and irresistible personality, Roger thinks Murphy is the perfect candidate for Marine Marshal. So it's no wonder Garp was asked to protect Murphy. Roger, what should we do now? Leave. Seeing Roger's expression, Rayleigh walked up and asked. Of course, besides, that kid has nothing to do with us, let's go. We're sailing. Roger smiled lightly, and he also understood what Rayleigh meant. But he didn't intend to do this. First, Garp was next to him, so he would suffer a lot in the fight. The second is that Murphy's strength is not weak, even if it is a sneak attack, it may be difficult to succeed in one go. Of course, it is undeniable that Roger and Rayleigh have no malice towards Murphy in their hearts. On the contrary, they feel that Murphy is very courageous, and even have some admiration in their hearts. After comprehensive consideration, Roger naturally chose to let Murphy leave directly. As for whether Murphy will become their threat in the future, as the 3 big pirates of New World, they still have the confidence to deal with it. Vice Admiral Garp. Walking to Garp's boat, Murphy greeted Garp very casually. Advertisement. Boy, what's the matter? New World is not such a simple place. Seeing that Murphy came back safe and sound, Garp didn't continue to be pursued by others, and he gave up the idea of fighting Roger. Garp was also relieved to see that Murphy was safe and sound. However, with Garp's character, it will not be so obvious. It is indeed a very interesting place, and my strength has also improved me very quickly. The gentle and jade-like young man smiled softly and replied in a calm voice. He has indeed improved a lot of strength here. He has improved so much in only 3 months. I am afraid that after returning to the elite camp in a year, Marine Vice Admiral may not be his opponent. As for the Admiral level, it is still a bit difficult to upgrade within 1 year. By the way, I heard that your kid is killing all directions in New World. It seems that you have provoked the Golden Lion and Whitebeard in succession. Recently, you have been active in New World as little as possible. The confrontation between those 2 monsters has already turned the entire world. The situation in New World has been stirred up. Wait until their business is over and you continue. Garp also reminded Murphy that the situation in New World is chaotic now, and it is better not to be too active. As for the influence of the Golden Lion and Whitebeard that Murphy provoked, he is not particularly worried. As a Marine, this is a normal thing in itself. There is no way to do anything to the Golden Lion and Whitebeard themselves, but it is only natural to do something to their subordinates. Things. I see, Vice Admiral Garp. Murphy nodded. Advertisement. He really does not intend to participate in this conflict between the big pirates. The target characters he mentioned before have also shrunk during this period of time, not wanting to be affected by the conflict between these 2 monsters. It doesn't make any sense for Murphy to directly participate in the battle of these monsters. After all, he can't beat Whitebeard or Golden Lion. As for those subordinates of Whitebeard, although Murphy can defeat them, I am afraid that the captains at this time are not the future batch. After all, there are more than 30 years before the plot begins. Intern crews and the like are not very strong. So it's better to take this time to comprehend your own swordsmanship. Anyway, Golden Lion and Whitebeard are not stupid, and there is Marine who is staring at each other. Naturally, it is impossible to confront each other for too long. Although the conflict looks terrible, there are 9 out of 10 it is impossible to fight. Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect you to be quite talkative, let's go. Go back to the Marine base first, Sengoku and the others have already set off, and we just went to guard there. Seeing that Murphy was so easy to talk to, Garp was also very happy to pat Murphy on the shoulder. But in the words, Garp clearly regarded Murphy as a very strong fighting force. And it is a combat force capable of guarding the New World Marine branch.